Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. Tonight it's going to be The Sopranos, Season 3, Episode 7, Second Opinion. And tonight I'm not alone, as always, when talking about The Sopranos. I have with me my co-host, Matt. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm good. I'm ready to get going because we've been off the last month, Phil. We keep saying
I know.
it's turn into every 3 weeks, and it's
But in fairness,
for good reasons. Both times for good reasons. I missed one and you missed one for good reasons.
for good reasons. But in fairness, considering that we took a 900-day break, we're still doing pretty damn good right now, coasting through, and we're not stopping. Even if we do miss weeks going through, unlike before, we're not stopping until we hit the end of The Sopranos. We may some weeks, not this week, group multiple episodes together when we talk about them, especially when we get into seasons 4 and season 5. I think we might go a little more automatic pilot on a couple of episodes and group couple of episodes together. And when we can get back in the same room when Matt's visiting, we might bang out 3 or 4 at once. But tonight we're looking at the episode Second Opinion, which is an episode, Matt. Okay, first of all, if you guys want to call and leave any comments or questions, you can do that at 781-990-8509. Other than that, leave your questions or comments in the comment section below about this episode of The Sopranos or The Sopranos in general.
Phil and I have also not discussed this
No.
at all with each other this entire episode yet. So we have no pre-gaming on this one whatsoever.
No, and usually we go back and forth. And it's funny you say that because I was just about to say that this is an episode that I think the only thing we said to each other back and forth was, I forget what you said, something about not remembering something happened, and I said I didn't remember a lot of this episode, and I didn't. Like even watching it back, and that's not to say it's a really good episode. It's a really tight episode for me, anyways. Junior was hilarious. Everything Junior and Tony, anytime that something focuses on them, are great. So I enjoyed this episode a great deal, but it is, in my memory of The Sopranos, it's an episode I forget about. I forget about this part of Junior being sick. I usually just go right to the dementia, and I think that kind of carried him through from the time he fell down. I forgot about all of this, the whole JFK thing, the John F. Kennedy thing. And the fact that we got Buster from Arrested Development in this episode. He's the tech, or Veep, if you know him from Veep.
I know him from Veep, Gary and Veep.
Yeah, Tony Hale. He's the nurse giving or the doc. I don't know if he's a nurse or a doctor giving the chemo to Junior. So it's a fun not a fun episode. It deals with some shit that I'm going to get a little personal with later, but it's a fun episode of The Sopranos.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is the last couple episodes have been these like huge hallmark famous episodes for huge things happening. There's the episode with Bobby Bacala's killing Mustang Sally, which is like a huge deal. Like, you could pin your hat on that. The last one is not as good as I remembered it, but still such a huge thing. Like, everyone remembers Ralphie killing her. Like, everyone remembers that happening. This one here, the most memorable scene, the thing that like you remember from the episode is, you know, when you watch it a second time, is Paulie sniffing Adriana's panties.
Right.
Like, that's what you remember from this. That's the thing that you're like, oh yeah, that sick fuck did that one time. Like, that's the thing that sticks in your head from it.
And the line about the minute he marries her, me being a pervert's off limits, but until then, I'm free to sniff her panties anytime I want. I forget his line. We'll hear it a little bit later. I also think one of the other highlight or memorable moments of the episode goes to the point I've made in the last couple of episodes about Ralphie and Tony and how they're not completely dissimilar. And I know people have been giving to me in the comments a little bit about this. I'm not saying Tony's a horrible person in the ways that Ralphie is. I'm saying, and Tony says it himself, and I think he's being honest when he says this to Ralphie, I share some of the same tendencies, Ralphie, so I understand. In this episode, he again beats the shit out of poor, what's his name?
Georgie, but listen.
Georgie, he did the same thing. Like, what's that?
The difference is...
Come on.
The difference is Ralphie did it strictly to embarrass, humiliate, and ruin the person's day. Tony did this in front of essentially nobody this time.
But he
and the
did
other
it-
thing with the ice, the guy had a million opportunities to knock in his ass.
You just think Georgie's stupid and deserves it.
I don't. I'm on Georgie's side. It's fucked up that people can just hurt him and nothing happens.
Poor Georgie. Seems like such a nice soul. But we're not alone, Matt. Of course, we have with us tonight the live motherfucking chat. Right now, we got Dwarf Burger, Killmonger, Jay, SM Down. We got Saul Goodman, who's been leaving a lot of awesome comments about The Sopranos, actually able to join us live tonight. We got Lady Danish as well. Thank you so much for everyone checking this stream out, or whatever point in time you happen to pop in here. Tonight, if you have never watched one of these with us, and you're checking this out for the first time, what we're going to do is actually watch the episode live. So this is season 3, episode 7. We'll babble for a little while at the beginning to give you time to queue up the episode if you want to watch it with us. Otherwise, we will be babbling along. Saul Goodman says, the fact that Tony goes to such lengths to help his Uncle Junior, even though Junior tried to kill him, is kind of sweet. Matt's attempt to whitewash Tony are hilarious. I do it sometimes, to be fair.
I really do, and it's so sick. Like, I'm on Tony's side, and it's so sick.
You're like, oh, it's when Georgie beat him. He beat him out of anger. That's so much better than trying to embarrass him. I love how that's your rationale about it, too. Like, he's the intention is true. You're right. The intention was different. Ralphie is a humiliating kind of wants to rip you apart, like get to you mentally and like abusive in a way. Tony, at core, he's like, he probably thinks of Georgie as, oh, you're stupid. You're okay, Georgie. Whatever, buddy. You know, watch him float, Georgie. Whatever. Like, he has a kind of neat attitude with Georgie and just kind of pities him. But when he gets angry, Tony is as bad as Ralph. Worse, because he's more capable. Because Tony's so strong and so, not worse, but like he can cause more damage quicker than fucking Ralphie can.
Yeah, but Ralphie's sicker because he knows that Georgie can't hit him back. That's the reason he acts like that. Like, obviously, that guy can probably kick Ralphie's ass, but like,
it's the Hodor.
He knows he's not allowed to.
I know you didn't watch Game of Thrones, but it's the Hodor thing. Georgie's big and like, but like if he wanted to,
he's the bouncer at the strip club. Yeah. Like, he's gonna at some level be like a tough guy, but
Hodor. Okay, but to the other question, the other point that I'll make, the fact that Tony goes to such lengths to help his Uncle Junior, even though Junior tried to kill him, is kind of sweet. I agree, and I think it's also interesting, and I like how Junior through this entire
calls him out on that. He's
dubious of the whole fucking situation. He's my nephew wants me to get a second opinion, but it really is, and this is where I'll defend Tony with you, or I'll go to Tony. I don't think Tony did this all out of love for his Uncle Junior. Like everything he did to threaten Kennedy, to go through all of that, was all because he truly loves Junior.
Yeah, I don't think he wants Junior. His goal isn't to get Junior to die. Junior's worth more to him alive, anyways, as the figurehead who's getting prosecuted. Like, Junior's worth more to Tony alive than he is dead, 100%.
All the way. And not to mention, I think at this point in time, enough time has passed between the situation with Livia in all the season 1 that I'm not saying Tony 100% trusts him, but I think some time has passed for that, and he realizes that the true villain in that situation, or the way he looks at it, was Livia, not Junior. And Junior got manipulated. That more of like, he was a weak old man that got manipulated by my incredibly capable mother. But speaking of his wife, we get this whole Carmela storyline in this episode, where Carmela also, thank you, Sopranos Autopsy, also seeks a second opinion in the episode by going to Milfy and then going to another psychologist, another therapist, and that basically tells her what everybody watching the show wants to say to Carmela, says to her in one scene, calls her out, tells her won't accept the fucking blood money, says you need to divorce me. She's like, what, why? You mean I have to do it? No. Listen to me, Carmela. You need to leave him now. To take the kids if you can. Get the fuck out. And she considers it and ultimately decides that the number she needs to say is $50,000 for this situation to rationalize why it's okay to be in this lifestyle. It shows true manipulation, Carmela. She uses so much power at the end of this episode over Tony, and shows where the power in this situation lays, and and fleeces money and shows to be a bigger gangster than Tony at the end of this episode, where she gets that money. You know, I'm not taking no for an answer. Tony, it's gonna be $50,000. He's like, oh, but why? $50,000, or I'll leave you. She didn't say that, but that's the vibe. That was the fucking vibe. She blackmailed him or fucked him over for $50,000. Yeah, Saul Goodman says, can't wait to hear Matt's defense of Carm. In fairness, just I'm going by body language. Matt just nodded in agreement to what I just said.
It did, but I do like
Here
historically, before we watch the whole thing, I defend Carmela more than I ever defend anyone else.
Yes, you do.
In my mind, Carmela's innocent of everything, which is not true, and I realized that more on the rewatch. But I still, why do I think of her as a victim? I don't know why I do, but I always do, and there's no reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's because Tony is such a force of nature kind of character, it's easy to kind of get involved in that. But I think one of the foundation fun parts of The Sopranos is that she's as multifaceted and fucked up as Tony is in her own way. And that's what I think part of the storyline that we're going to get into in seasons 4 into seasons 5, when she tries to get the divorce and then eventually swings back into it. She figures out really where her line is. And at a certain point in time does, I think, gain more acceptance of it all by the end of the series.
Okay. I'm going back to my defense of Tony here for a second, because now I'm getting mad at myself for defending him. I'm going to go back to something I say about all these people, is that I think the question is, if they were not born into this life, what type of person would they be? And I think that's an important concept, because I think Richie and Ralphie are pieces of shit no matter what they're born into. Like, there's no Tony. I think if he just wasn't in the mafia, could be an okay guy. Like, he has a good heart in a lot of ways. He loves animals. He like cares about his kids. He cares about his family. He cares about certain things.
I love the loves.
The friggin' mafia. Like, that's the difference.
I mean, I love the loves animals. I want to make fun of you on that, but I don't entirely disagree, and I do think, to your point. Again, I can't wait to kind of get to this stuff, and we're getting way ahead, but that's part of what we do here on these Soprano casts. I think that's part of what the Kevin Finnery thing is all about.
Yeah. I mean, do you see a shred of decency in Ralphie? And I think that's the difference. There is not a shred of decency in Ralphie. There's lots of shreds of decency in Tony.
Maybe in his son a little bit, but not really.
Whose son?
Ralphie. He did seem to at least care about his son, right? Like when his son gets injured and all that sort of shit, and he did.
No, I don't. When? What are you talking about?
I don't think we've got to it yet. When Ralphie's kid gets hit with the bow and arrow,
Dude, why have we not heard about Ralphie's kid at all up to this point? That's sort of my point.
Because he's a piece of shit.
This is my point. I hate. Shred of decency.
Do you know what I hate right now? And I don't really hate it. I fucking love it. And I love getting to talk about this episode. I fucking hate that somehow I'm put in a situation where I'm defending fucking Ralphie, where I'm like the Ralphie defender in this situation. Oh, somewhere 100 years from now, someone's gonna watch this podcast somewhere. Maybe, if we're lucky, and they're gonna go, this guy's defending Ralphie, and you're sitting there defending Tony. Saul Goodman makes a good point. Paulie loves his mom, so he's okay. And Samuel says she was taking her priest's advice. Take what good you can come of the situation and give the money to the university. Exactly, Samuel. Great point. She was doing what she eventually needs to figure out. And I think it's part of Carmela's story arc throughout the entire series is her coming to grips with how much she can actually handle of that and where her compartmentalizing line is. And this was a point where she needed to give this good. She needed to give this money to make herself feel good enough to even off the shit she feels about being in this horrible situation.
How much do you think she allows her Catholicism, like the fact that she has to stay married to her husband because of her faith, how much of that she uses as an excuse, you think, to like allow herself to stay there?
I do think she uses it a lot as an excuse to that point, what you say. And I also think it's funny, just because you said that, it made me think of the point in the episode where she's with the psychologist.
He's amazing. He's like a rabbi just telling it like it is.
It's such a great dynamic when she's like, I don't know about your family, but in my religion you gotta stay married, and he's like, I've been married for 30 years in a very lovely marriage with 7 kids and 10 generations of normal fucking people that aren't connected to the fucking mafia, Miss Carmela Soprano. So it's really fun. So let's get into starting this episode because we're going to just continue this discussion all the way through. We got Studio 11 live. Uncle D, great to see you as well out there. Uncle D is awesome. One of my very long-term watchers. Great to have him in the live motherfucking chat. And we got Jay, of course. Saul Goodman, Brian Dodd. I saw you pop in there. Samuel, Lady Danish is in there as well, and I think Dworkin's swinging about as well here too. Thank you all for joining us on this midweek or early midweek Sopranos cast. We know we're talking about a show from that originally aired in 2001. We know not everyone's into having like deeper discussions about random episodes of The Sopranos, so we do appreciate all of you guys that join us. Even if it's just 1, 2, 5, 7,000, no matter how many people or how few people, it's just great to be able to watch this series and bullshit about it again. So Carmela's been married to Tony for over 18 years. Why is this all news to her now? And that's a big point with, I think, again, if I'm trying to put my own headcanon within The Sopranos, it seems like early on, before Tony was boss, he involved Carmela more within the business. In season 1, we see her know where the gun is, where the money is. I mean, she has a little bit more talking back and forth with Tony about his place in the family. Just having rewatched season 1 not that long ago, earlier on in the pandemic stuff, it occurred to me that she seemed to be a little bit more in the know towards the beginning of season 1. When he started to take over as boss and Jackie Sr. took sick and all of that, I think Tony sort of isolated himself a little bit more, and it sort of changed her perspective, and she found out more about the Russian Gumar, and all that stuff became more of a head. I don't know if that's the reasoning why it's more of an issue for her now, or she's just always been the same. It's always hot and cold.
I think the other issue is, and we see this in this episode, is she's starting to realize Meadow's gone. Meadow's out of the house. AJ is growing up, goes away for the weekend, doesn't want to be around. She is now, I mean, she had for 18 years distracted by motherhood. Like, she knows what that's just sort of like, that's what I get to do. I'm a mom. I take care of my kids. That's it. There's a whole thing. I mean, I hope they're not watching. I know my mom's not watching. Like, my parents are retired now with each other, and like, gotta realize, like, oh shit, we don't have kids around. We have to deal with each other now. It's like, they're miserable because of that. And, not that she's miserable with Tony, but there's the like, that's her life, has been raising her kids. I think being a mom has been her main focus for the last 18 years.
Absolutely, and great point, Matt. It allows her to kind of reflect and feed into some of that energy into everything to do with my daughter's going to Colombia and getting into all that. And on top of that, AJ, when she does talk to him and he comes back, I think it's in this episode, when he comes back from his Washington trip, and she's like, "This is the longest I've ever been without you."
It's so uncomfortable, that scene.
And he's like, "Yeah, there was PlayStation in the hotel."
Yeah.
So she doesn't get as much engagement with him as she did with Meadow, who was going to Colombia and caring about her life so much, point for point, and worrying about all that shit. So you're right. And I think if I'm correct in remembering this, eventually, before it gets to the point where they get a divorce, or they almost get a divorce in season 4, she wants to have another kid. And then when that doesn't work out, that's when the whole real estate buying specs houses thing comes into play.
Well, that's the thing. She's going to do something with her life now, because her identity has been the kids.
Dwarf Burger Swamp Beard says, I love that name. She wasn't distracted. She was in denial. Killmonger says she was like cheating on me, and the doc is like the least of his sins. And Jason Voorhees, great to see Jason Voorhees in the live chat. Let no one wander in the woods outside of the live chat.
No one really wants to see you in the chat.
I mean, we want to see him in the chat.
Only in the chat.
Yeah,
that's fine.
As long as he's out there, he's not here. So we might as well start the episode because we're going to continue this discussion throughout it. Oops, something's wrong. I have to restart my HBO. So everyone, again, this is season 3, episode 7. As usual, Matt and I will do our 3, 2, 1, and then do it on go. We're going to start the Sopranos episode. Yes, Matt.
I was just going to say I've never done it on my phone before, so this could be. We're probably going to screw this up and have to do it again, but let's do this.
Oh, and we got the Walking David in the live chat, who is the amazing Walking David, who is going to join us at some point on one of these Sopranos casts for our discussion. Maybe when we get to Pine Barrens in a couple of weeks. And to your point earlier, Matt, when you were talking about 3 amazing episodes and then these couple of episodes, handfuls of these episodes, these are the yada yada episodes. They're still great until we get to Pine Barrens. Because
right. But this one here is like, it's more of a bridge to other things. It doesn't, there's no like moment in this one. It's just a lot of building, where the ones before this have been big moments in it.
And 100%. And also I want to give David, the Walking David, a special shout out because his TikTok is doing really awesome, doing impressions of Walking Dead stuff. I mean, he does lots of stuff on there, but the things that have really been taken off is some of the stuff that he's been doing right here on this channel and on his YouTube channel, The Walking David, for years for us, doing Rick Grimes, Daryl impressions, all sorts of stuff. He's been getting 10,000 views on each one of his impression videos, doing amazing. So if any of you guys that circle around that platform, make sure you check out David. David, share your screen name in the chat section that we'll be showing in this video. You know, if you're watching this later, just look in the chat replay so you can follow David and catch up with all of his fun impressions and fun thing he's got going over there. And David's going to be with us soon. Obviously when the Walking Dead starts, but we're going to have him on one of these Sopranos casts, even if we just have him by voice on phone. I just have to figure out how to do a multiple guest thing here a little bit, but yeah. So David, thanks so much for popping in the live chat, and congratulations for all your stuff, man. Jason says
we got to find that Paulie clip of him going, "What do you hear? What do you say?" when David comes in and does that.
Exactly. Or we need to just have David record one for us of him doing it.
Right.
Him doing a
Sure.
I don't know if he does a Paulie Walnuts. Jason says, "Do you remember F13 season the final 13 season 3 episode 7? No, because you don't put those assholes canceled my show." Before that. That's the fucking worst. When a show that you're into and you're getting way into gets canceled before they actually reach their conclusion. These days, that's called Netflixing somebody. They Netflixed you out of that last couple of seasons of Santa Clarita Diet or Glow or a second season of this or that. Everyone has their Netflix show of Mindhunters or whatever.
We what the hell was it called? I'm not even remember what the hell it's called, but it was called Patriot. Hilarious, but ended 2 seasons. They just killed it.
It's tough. I almost with some of these I sound so these kids and their Netflix series. With some of these Netflix series, I almost don't want to start watching them until they're done with their runs, because I don't want to get into something, because I hate the feeling of watching something. And we dealt with this with The Sopranos too, leading into that final season. A lot of people forget this. But I think it was between 6A and 6B, it almost didn't happen. There was all this press out at the time that the actors weren't coming. Some of the actors might not be coming back. They were asking for a raise. There was like all this shit that was going on. So I almost don't want to get into a show and then have it eventually be canceled when you're waiting for that final conclusion. That's almost worse than waiting to watch something and then binging it all together. Glow was great for a season. I liked all 3 seasons, Glow, Swarfberger. And thank you, Killmonger. And thank you, OTDA, who I saw popped in there as well. And we got Tony Pajamas in the live chat, too. That name makes me excited. Tony Pajamas! That's what I want to... It just makes me want to say that like it's a lounge performer, a lounge comedian in Vegas, in like old Vegas, you know, down on what do you call it, street.
What's the name of that character that Andy Kaufman used to come up? You know what I'm talking about?
Tony Clifton?
Tony Clifton or something like that.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think so. That's what it reminded me of that when you started doing like the Vegas thing. Yeah.
Tony, we got
Oh, by
Tony.
the way, we haven't even said this. Happy May the 4th, anyone who's watching this today.
Oh yeah. So Matt, should we stop this and just do a re-review of your thoughts on the prequel series?
Not the prequel. Let's do the last. No, I don't want to talk about any of those.
You don't want to talk about any Star Wars.
We'll talk about there was like 3 episodes I could handle, and that's it. The rest,
So thank you so much for popping on in, Tony Pajamas, and really excited to be able to have you joining live for one of these. And this is our time period. If people don't know, Tuesdays, and this week I put out a actual schedule on the broadcast and the community thing. I'm going to try to keep doing that every week with a schedule on what days we will be streaming. So if people want to check that out and are watching this later and are like, when the fuck do you go live? Every Saturday evening or Sunday morning, I'll put out like whatever the weekly schedule is going to be on the as a community post, so you guys can check that out. So okay.
I have one question for Dwarf Burger because he just commented. I'm just wondering, do you watch the Mandalorian, Dwarf Burger, or not? And that's for no one else. I just want a yes or no. We don't. Phil, we can't get off topic anymore. We're already wasting enough time.
Okay. Are you almost ready?
I'm good.
Okay. Let me get here.
Hopefully, when we hit play, this actually does what it's supposed to do. Otherwise, I'll just do it on my computer.
Season 3, episode 7. Don't be afraid to tell me it didn't work for you, because then we'll just restart this here. So here we go. Season 3, episode.
Oh, if you've never done this, we're gonna go 3, 2, 1. Then Phil's gonna say go, and we're gonna hit play.
Right. We're gonna do this the lethal weapon way. The 3, 2, 1. Then we get off the toilet here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. How you doing?
I'm a second behind. I'll be fine.
Okay, there we go. That's fine. But yes, it is May the 4th for those of you that care about such things. So for May the 4th, we're watching a Sopranos episode about Junior getting a second opinion about a cancer diagnosis. That is our way of celebrating May the 4th. Dwarf Burger says...
Dwarf Burger answered that no, he doesn't.
No to Mamdo.
I think he meant Mando. I'm not sure what the Mamdo
I don't know. I don't watch Mamdo either, but The Mandalorian's a pretty decent show. Dwarf Burger's Star Wars is dead. I love how he says that, though. I'm hearing that in his voice, but I'm making him...
I know.
Star Wars is dead. Shit, I hit play in my mom's porno tape. Pam Goes Wild. No, don't put Pam Goes Wild on. That's for the after hours show, Jason. That's for Uncle Phil's ketchup couch later.
Why do I not see Jason on here? I see everyone but him.
Oh, make sure you see how it says live chat at the top, or top chat?
Top chat?
Click it to live chat. For some reason, the top chat doesn't like Jason Voorhees because he's a zombie undead murderer of teenagers having sex in the woods. So
I was in the top motherfucking chat, not the live.
No, you want to be in the live motherfucking chat. Fuck
okay.
The top fucking chat is for that's some fucking, I don't even know who likes the top. Unfortunately, the one on the screen has to be the top chat. That's just how it autocorrects, but. Okay, this is a really awesome way to start this episode with this scene that you think is real, but it's actually a dream. And right until you get that Junior fucking Angie Dickinson, I don't know. He was so great in this role, in a comedic role. I would have loved to see him, and it's not too late, but I would have loved to see him do more funny stuff later in his life, because he could have been in a grumpier old man kind of movie as well. Very funny. This is a funny episode. Yeah, it's one of the law passed. What's the something at the curfew up for something registration? Oh, I totally missed that the first couple times I watched that. We hear Olivia's voice right there. Why did I suddenly got happy inside, Matt? And I was wondering why I got so happy inside. It's because we heard Olivia's voice.
Oh, God.
Okay. This whole...
By the way, no Janice in this episode.
I was wondering why things felt so nice. The thing about this episode, or this side storyline, sometimes these side storylines, these David Chase Point episodes, I know he doesn't write every episode, but he does put his hand in it, don't ring true. This one is like... hits home to me very personally because of my own experience, and I'll get into it a little bit later. Where doctors, you don't know really what's going on behind the closed doors with they say one thing to your face, and then behind closed doors it's like, I gotta get in 9 holes. And I'm not saying every doctor's like that, but there are smug assholes like Dr. Kennedy in the world,
especially surgeons, and he's on the surgery side of this.
Yeah, Scrubs deals with this very, very well. With the surgeons versus doctors thing.
Phil, the doctor I know the most in the world who is an orthopedic surgeon, which is the scummiest of all surgeons because you don't actually save anyone's life. He's 100% like this. Like, by the way, Saul, it's not even funny how much Phil's obsessed with Livia.
I love that. She reminds me of my mom. Personality a little bit.
I don't know how to respond to that.
So Tony tries to offer, I'll help you, I'll do anything for you right there in that situation. And Kennedy rebukes him there, shows his smug attitude after we saw him in the operating room being kind of a douchebag kind of surgeon. And here we but this is the beginning of a ongoing feud between the two of these that culminates much late. Like, you could think that at the end of this episode they squash it, and then in Pine Barrens, but this continues. Doesn't this continue to a even further point where
there's always ball busting. I mean, do you remember there's the scene later on where Christopher's trashed somewhere and he starts rambling about being a father or something like that, and he just makes fun, like he breaks his sobriety, and like Paulie busts his balls about it.
Did the episode happen already where they actually make Christopher pay for everyone, and where they make him pay for Johnny's set? Oh yeah, because that's what Christopher's referring to there when he had to pay for all the shit. Patsy's
a lot of Patsy in this one.
Yeah,
though.
Patsy's such a little douche though. He's got no balls.
He is, but it helps now that I know that he's sort of. It's so hard because, especially in the beginning, I don't think they had fleshed out the tree of people in the Sopranos so much, like where they actually fall.
Yeah, exactly. You got to figure out who's going to be
got to figure out. And this one here, when he's showing up at 2 a.m. with Patsy, you realize that Patsy must be working under Paulie.
Now, Saul Goodman Phil's obsessed with Livia. Then he says, "Sorry, Phil." The doctor with the voice recorder is Samuel, horrible, and I love he gets his comeuppance. And it's one of those situations where we're cheering for Furio and Tony to do their thing later in the episode. And
right.
And Dwarf Burger says, Mando can be good if they brought back Luke. It stinks of rotten nostalgia berries and desperation.
For someone who didn't watch it, you sure seem to know what the hell's going on in it a lot there, Dwarf Burger.
Swamp Beard. So, okay.
In case anyone here doesn't know, Phil and I know Dwarf Burger and have known him for years.
Yeah,
so
he's one of our game night crew with Joe and more than that, but for quick reference, he's one of Joe and Matt and I's closest friends.
I've known him for 30 plus years.
So yeah, Tony walks out of here, and this is where we get into a little bit of how fucked up Carmela's mother is too. She's no Livia when it comes to fucked up mothers on the scale situation, but she is her own kind of narcissistic, controlling kind of personality. So the minute Tony leaves,
this is the thing I told you, Phil, that I totally didn't remember the scene happening at all.
Oh yeah, this was the one, yeah. And then Tony leaves, and just to get into it before it happens, she starts going, you know what, Matt? You should have done a podcast with that Justin B. He's a much better boy than Phil. She goes right into that.
That Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, that Dave Portnoy. We went to school with that Dave Portnoy. You really should be doing this podcast with El Presidente. He'd really get the views in. Maybe we just talked about him. We'll get 100 more views just from mentioning our
name dropping him.
Yeah, name dropping our high school pal.
He really needs he needs the attention.
Oh yeah, he needs it way more than we do, Matt. Lady Danish says Christopher drives me nuts. He drives you nuts. Imagine what he does to Tony. I love the line when Junior's getting him in season 1. He goes, maybe now he give you agita. So it's Christopher is so infuriating in a lot of ways. So here
probably the second best, third best. Oh no, it's whenever I'm all right, who did the best job acting on this? It's Tony, and then
Carmela.
Yeah, but then it's Junior and Christopher, and you gotta start fighting there with, you know.
It's either Junior or Christopher. Like it's those four are the best actors on the show, or the best performance actors. Paulie is obviously amazing.
Paulie's just playing a caricature of himself.
Right.
Not...
And in Sil and Bacala, I know you're not the biggest, but both of them are very serviceable in what they do on the show.
Sure.
I know you hate Bobby. I know
you could put better people in both of those roles. You can't really put anyone in that would. There was no one that would do a better Christopher, a better Junior, a better.
Okay, I'll give you I'll give you Steve Strippa. I'll give you Bobby Bacala. But I do think Little Steven was essentially perfect for, like, you.
Yes.
Sil would have been completely could have been too serious. There was something like off about the way he was playing that character that worked with the character in a sense, because of Sil's ability to be a very good number two and never really a number one. And I like how we deal with that later. We'll get to that when Tony's in his little finnery thing and Sil has to take over.
His little finnery thing.
His little coma from being shot by Junior.
I mean, if you really want to date when this show came out, I mean, it's The Fish. Like, this was a huge, stupid phenomenon for no reason for 6 months of our life or a year of our life.
Paulie drives me nuts. Get it? Get it? Get it? I love it.
I do.
Oh, wait. We need some laughter for that one. Wait. Okay, bam! You're telling me. Oh yeah. He's so much better of a person.
He's still got the eye patch from that piece of shit Ralphie.
Yeah, and Tony makes it worse.
I'm like 3 seconds behind you too, so.
Okay, so we get into this scene with the statue that she's looking at, and I love how she remarks to Milfy later, I don't like that statue.
Statue, not my favorite.
It's not my favorite. And these are always really interesting scenes to me, because they're two characters that, poor Georgie is right, Samuel. It's scenes of like two characters that we normally, leading up into the first 2 seasons of this show, establishing the canon of the universe, we wouldn't see together in the same place, you know. And you know who we're forgetting about in our discussion of the best actors on the show is Lorraine Bracco, because she's outside of it all, but it's such a great performance by Lorraine Bracco in the character of Milfy as well. She's another great actor on the show.
I agree, but I think other people could have done that role. That's my only point.
But Saul Goodman has a good point. Vincent Pastore is the best actor, and Matt's gonna have Matt's head's gonna explode.
The only person better than him was Skip.
Skip Lipari.
Whatever the hell his last name was. Yeah.
You thought he was bad in the spread. You should have seen him on Entourage, Matt. Oh my God. He was so bad. Like on a show.
How did he have a second gig? That's what blows my
HBO, because he worked for HBO. That half of Entourage's cast were just HBO alums. Meadow was on there too, playing one of the lead's girlfriends.
But she was playing Meadow though, right?
She was playing Jamie Lynn Singler.
Right. And that's a little different then. I'm sure he wasn't playing the actor who played Skip.
Killmonger says, seems like Carm just went to this session to start shit. And she almost does, because she starts talking shit about Tony. She wants to get into a little bit of a fight. Like, what do you think her intention here is? Do you think Milfy calls her out correctly here, where you sound like you have a lot to say, you just need someone to vent to?
Yeah, and I think Milfy. Why do you have me calling her Milfy? I think Melfi has.
Sorry.
She is torn.
I'm trying to make that a thing. Sorry.
I know you are. That she can't actually treat her, but it's such a weird. This is like one of the weirdest dynamics in the show. Is these two.
Oh my God! People are trolling you so hard in the live chat tonight. Tony, Lou Lombardi, best act. No, it's Robert. It's AJ Soprano. AJ Soprano for the award. We need to do the Big Daddy Matt AJ Soprano award of each episode for the worst performance in each episode goes to the Big Daddy. Ladies and gentlemen, the Big Daddy Matt AJ Soprano worst performance of the night.
Thing is, he's very rarely the worst actor. He's just like the most unlikable character.
He's just the most nothing. He gets the award. We're like out of context trashing on AJ in a good scene with Carmela and Melfi.
I know there's no reason for that. Why are we wasting our time on AJ?
But in fairness, what he wins is the award for most, like, why is he lucky to be there? You know, like when you get on the even, no matter whatever you want to say about Pussy, whatever you want to say about even Skip, at least they had like, you know, they did stuff on the show. AJ, every performance of his is like, I'm AJ. I'm acting. Yes.
And it gets worse over time, and his character somehow becomes more annoying.
He was better as a kid. I agree. He was much better in those first 2 seasons as like young.
Who thought who thought in season 6 would be longing for the days of like Slipknot AJ, who seems like a piece of shit. You know, but we
Slipknot AJ is way better than emo AJ, like environmentalism emo AJ. That's just a weird storyline, or it's not a weird storyline. The actor didn't pull it off. But anyways, so a good scene between these two of the best actors working on the show that you don't usually get, which ultimately leads to a point where she's going to go to her own, she gets a referral that she takes it. So we get to this scene where we see the pictures on the wall. This gets talked about in Sopranos Autopsy a bit, the article about it, this episode, where we take Kennedy's pictures on the wall, show him like traveling all the time, and then we get in the next office that show a very different thing on the pictures on the wall. They're very plain because the doctor is, cares more, so he doesn't gallivant all over the world like Kennedy does.
And it's also, I mean, part of this, I think, is trying to tease out just the beginning hints of the dementia that's coming to Junior right now.
Yeah.
That he is just, like, Junior at his best, I don't think just idolizes a guy named John F. Kennedy because he's named John F. Kennedy.
Dude, and Junior, like, Dominic is so incredibly funny in this episode. Like, every line he gives with Kennedy about, like, Kennedy, he's younger than me, older than me, and look at him now. Like all the Kennedy shit, and all of them. You tell me to piss, doctor. I tell you how high. Like everything he says in his relationship with Bobby. This is where I say that Steve as Bobby Buckle is serviceable and plays this in a straight man role. I don't know, I'm dumb. Like he plays that part pretty understated enough that I never like he takes me out of a scene.
That's fine if that's all he's doing. The scenes with just him and Junior, he's fine. It's once other stuff happens. It's once other people come into play, he can't handle it.
Studio 11 Live, what about Jerry Adler as Hesh? I liked Hesh's performance, but interesting note about that I found out on the Talking Sopranos podcast is they originally offered that part, and he was like almost going to do it, but turned it down in the last minute, to Jerry Stiller. Jerry Stiller was originally supposed to play Hesh, and they ended up casting the actor that played him, Jerry Adler, towards the last minute because George Costanza's father didn't.
Frank Costanza can't. Like, it's a whole other thing.
Imagine if Frank Costanza was Hesh. That would have been weird.
That's why this works, is because in the first season, like in the beginning of the show, no one is a household name. Lorraine Bracco's the closest thing.
Tony Pajamas says best actor is Vito Jr. shitting on the floor. Killmonger says most of the background actors suck. Samuel says improved by the last season. What about Vincent Cortolano's been one? Johnny Sack. Worst is Vito Jr. We get. And this is where we get.
I think Johnny Sack's great too.
Johnny Sack is great. I think they did, especially when he gets sick at the end. It's horror. Though stage 5, or stage 4. It's a tough episode for me to watch. Just like the first couple of episodes of Breaking Bad, for the same reason, are tough for me to watch. It's like too real, and it's personal, like whatever. So it gets to me a little bit.
Echo, did you just start watching it?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think Gecko is I believe. That's crazy. 2 typecast. Yeah, 2 typecast, and I think he's, as Matt's point, he's too recognizable as Frank Costanza. It would have taken attention away from the part and drawn too much attention. Plus, I don't know. I
saw him on an episode of Law and Order like 2 weeks ago. He was playing like some random lawyer from before Seinfeld, and it's ridiculous. Like, you can't even pull it off. And Sopranos started when Seinfeld was like literally ending, at its peak. And the only role he could go on and do is the guy from King of Queens, because he's playing the same character.
Basically the same character. People in the live chat throwing out a lot of really great actors. David Proval as Richie, or Jackie. Richie Aprile. Killed it.
Richie Aprile, great.
Joey Pants, amazing. Someone said Carmela is so freaking clueless in that scene. So fucking clueless, Samuel.
So that's who David Proval is Richie, right?
Richie, yeah.
Yeah, so Saul, I don't know if you knew this or not, but they originally were trying to. I mentioned this in one of the other episodes. They tried to originally cast someone bigger and as physically intimidating as Tony, and no one could pull it off. At one point, Al Bundy had gone in for it and couldn't pull
I
it off.
remember hearing
The
that.
only
Yeah.
person that could stand up to him was Richie. It's just being like an equal, like someone with zero fear of Tony whatsoever.
Lady Danish says, just started watching the show, made it to season 4, still trying to remember everyone's names. We will definitely help you with that. In this scene, we get Adriana and Christopher. Adriana showing off her shoes, and this caters to a ongoing joke in this episode, like a reoccurring joke that happens twice in the episode about
Size 10.
Yeah, about guys thinking that all their girlfriend's shoe size are size 10.
And then they both go, where did I get 10 from?
Where did I get 10 from? And in fairness, we don't see her in this episode, but every time she's referenced, I like mentioning her because she's from one of my favorite shows. Every time Paulie refers to his Gumar, I believe he's talking about Carla from Scrubs. I think that's his main Gumar is Carla from Scrubs.
I think it's the only one we ever meet.
Yeah.
I thought of you the other day, Phil, because I watched an episode of Scrubs for the first time in years.
One of my favorite comedies. Really great show. Johnny Sack will follow most people back on Twitter, Instagram. He follows me on both. If you reach out, he responds. Very nice guy. You know what, Matt? I'm gonna try to take advantage of that situation, and he'll never do it. But I'm gonna ask him to come on the show with Matt and I to do an
Knock
interview.
it off. I couldn't handle that, Phil. I'd die.
I'm gonna try. The worst he can say is no, Matt. The worst he can say is no. We're gonna reach out. We're gonna reach out to Johnny Sack to talk about his work on The Sopranos. We'll see if we can get him on the show.
Don't send him our first season's episode.
No, I'm gonna send him
no one would ever come on.
But I'm just gonna show him the numbers of the first episode.
Show him this one here where we were talking about what a great actor he was.
He's amazing. He's the greatest ever. You guys can act.
He's hands down the best actor of that crew, of the New York crew. I mean,
100. I mean, Carmine Sr. was really good too, and then
Carmine Jr. is trash, and even Phil Leotato's not great.
It's not the best performance that guy ever gave.
Right. I watched the end of Casino the other day. That's
I don't like Butchie either. I think Butchie comes off as this guy's the consigliere of the New York family. I'm just not a big fan of Butchie. Okay, so just to catch up on the chat before it swings by, Saul says Carmela's not clueless. She's just in denial. That's kind of what Dwarf Burger Swamp Beard. I have to say that the whole time, every time. That's what Dev says earlier. That made sense. Gecko says, I took it as she wanted a referee to take her side. It's hard because she can't be honest with Melfi, but knows her lifestyle wouldn't be sympathetic to normies. And Gecko also adds, Ed Al Bundy O'Neill was supposed to lay Al. Oh, it was supposed to be in Deadwood as well. And his best role is Bill Jackson, John from Cincinnati, both done by David Milch. He's again one of those underrated talents because he's so known for Al Bundy and kind of comedy roles. But Ed O'Neill is a really talented dude.
He's also in Wayne's World, he's great in Wayne's World too.
He's amazing. And Edie Falco looks amazing here. She looks really pretty in the scene.
But see, this is Tony knows immediately that they're just going to try to shake him down if he goes and meets with this person. And they're still... he's like, Carmela, don't go. And of course she's going to go.
And she's going to go. Because, is she going because she wants to... Again, this is her thing about wanting to do something herself.
Did he just refer to her as her ungrateful cunt wife? He
was talking about Angie Bapasani. Saul Goodman, I also kind of have a soft spot in my heart for little Carmine. I think he plays stupid really well, and stupid like a fox sometimes. And there's a couple of smarter YouTubers than I that have some theories about Carmine really being smart, and especially in the New York situation, set that up so he could swoop in at the end and take over. And Butchie's kind of just setting it up for Carmine to take over, and he set up Phil, and he was the one that put Phil on a silver platter, and that was all part of his plan. I don't really buy into that, but I don't hate Carmine Jr. as much as some people do. Do I prefer Buffy or The Sopranos? I prefer The Sopranos, but I definitely love Buffy. Buffy is, through the history of time, has become an underrated show because it's in that mid-period of television that's still, connected to soap opera dramas like 90210, and then mixing it with the later shows that were to come, like The Sopranos or The Wire or Oz or whatever. So I think Buffy's an interesting transitional show, but I think some of the performances in the storylines on Buffy are incredible. And I'm a huge Giles fan, and Anthony Head in general. So you won't find a bigger like I am a huge Buffy fan, but I would say The Sopranos all the way.
All right. I want to get back to this episode because we're missing the pack where Christopher's a complete piece of shit to Adriana. I asked her who the most famous person she ever hooked up with was. She says Penn, which is great because I looked like Penn when I had long hair.
You totally did.
But he then like calls her a whore and throws her across the room.
Yeah, he slaps her across the room. So,
and now this is so fucked up that they're going to come in and take the shoes in front of Adriana. Like that's the thing. You're doing it to her too, and you're emasculating. Luckily, Adriana knows this whole world, so because he would be more upset because he's just totally being like taken advantage in front
right,
of her.
And this just backs up what he has been saying to her about what's been going on at work. Yeah. Fritz said it right. Buffy just didn't have the makings of a varsity athlete. I've never seen so much food repeatedly stabbed with forks until I started watching this show, says Lady Danish. I love the first time, or people that are watching and going through The Sopranos for the first time, and their like points like that, because it's so true. So much wasted food just being stabbed and thrown about in this series. I forgot about this scene too.
But yeah, that was the most memorable scene of this episode is him sniffing Adriana's panties.
Yeah, and he sniffs her panties right there. Did he? Again, is that? I was just gonna ask the stupidest question ever. Did he do that because Paulie's a sick fuck, or did he do that to fuck with Christopher knowing? No, because he doesn't.
I don't think he knows Christopher sees him do it.
Right, I don't think so either. I almost corrected myself there because he's almost surprised when Christopher like told Tony about it.
He told you that? Like that's what he says to Tony when Tony says something to him. I want to just real quick.
Motherfucker.
Gecko, are you saying, first of all, are you serious or are you just bullshitting me? And secondly, are you saying that about Ed O'Neill? He has a black belt under Helio Gracie?
Is that really true? Wow. Gecko isn't one to tell tales, so I'm gonna take Gecko by face value on that one.
Or we could just be talking up the whole Al Bundy, like the football.
Oh, legacy. Like yeah, he caught the winning touchdown pass.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah, I think it's funny that like my stepfather is kind of like a Al Bundy in the town we grew up in, and because he won the winning touchdown pass, like it bounced off someone's helmet. So when like you'd work at the bar with it, like when I worked for him stuff, he'd have people come in and be like, "Oh, could you tell us the story about with his situation with my stepfather, it bounced off someone's head into his hands in the end zone. It wasn't even a pass to him.
I didn't even know that was the story. Okay,
yeah, that's the story.
So
1972.
Real quick story about what Phil's talking about. Not that anyone gives a shit. The town that Phil and I are both from, in the 1960s and 70s, won state championships of football every single year. So it was kind of, it's not like being in Texas. My wife's from Texas, and I know what they're like. But up here in Massachusetts in the Northeast, where high school football isn't a huge thing, we were like the team to beat for all those years. So it was actually a really big deal if he won like a state championship, whatever.
Yeah, and then they went on a big drought, and this was the first one that they won after a long while. So it was like a big deal at the time, and then it was the last one that they won for a long time after that.
Like a bunch of NFL players came out of our town, mainly through other cities. They came and moved into our town to play, and then
Toner was one of them.
The Hoffmans, the Gerons, the Gerons were from Lynn and then moved into Dick Geron. If anyone knows the coach, he's a football coach, whatever. No one cares.
Yeah, no, let's move. Okay, so yeah, we get to this scene now where Carmela shows up at the college, and she's again. This is one of those things that I say it a lot when we talk about Edie Falco's performing as an actress. She's so good at playing multiple shades. And like she's so depressed here, and you can tell how depressed she is, but she's still doing her Carmela judgmental mother thing, but you could see how sad she is. And she also wants to throw in her face how she's, still working for her benefit, still trying to help her out.
What point do you think that?
Yeah, 4 touchdowns.
There has to be. There's obviously parts of Meadow that look down upon her mother by this point. That
Oh, right from the beginning. I think even before that. I think once she realizes what Tony does, it makes her lose respect for Carmela that she didn't just walk, because that's.
Well, at this point here, though, is it as a feminist too of like. That you were just going to sit back and be a mob wife your whole life, right? Not even that it's a mob wife, but just nothing for you.
She even has that conversation with Carmela, I believe, at one point in time where I just want more. I don't want to just be like you. She does have one of those kinds of conversations. We got Muhammad in the live chat. I absolutely will. And we got Fitz says Junior Colonel Angus.
Thank you, Dwarf Burger. You're correct. 4 TDs in one game. Polkai forever.
Polkai forever. Yep. Motherfucker. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. This is such a fucking sad scene and like hilarious at the same time. And that's the rest of Junior's story from this point on in the series is hilarious and sad at the same fucking time. There's no car. There's no car. Calm the fuck down.
Except for one scene. Him at Jackie Jr.'s funeral is like remember him singing at the end of it?
Oh yes. I was wondering if that was the one or it's the one in season 2 where he runs away from it. He shows up at the funeral and then he sprints away.
No. He sings at Jackie Jr.'s at the end.
Saul says, as horrible as Ralph is, I miss him when he's not around. When I first saw this episode, I was upset that Ralph didn't appear.
In this episode, it's really weird that he's not in this episode. That's the weirdest part of this episode because the last one ends with the way it ended.
I think they explain it later on, probably because Joey Pants was filming something else. But they explain it later on, or they only could afford him for a certain amount of episodes for the year.
I think they talk about it right here, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he says, "What's this problem?"
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Sorry, I'm behind you, so I'm just seeing it right now on closed caption.
I think he's probably in Miami. You know, like that's where Ralph goes. Like, because like later on in the season when he gets into the whole thing with Johnny Sack. Or it might even be next year. He's like, go back down to Miami where you go and you hide and you do your shit. So I assume Ralph's down getting clean right now, so to speak.
Well, yeah. He's kind of got to be on the lam briefly because at this point.
I love all of this. I love that man.
He's older than me, and now look. You were gone a long time. What White Castle did you have? I didn't, I swear. I can smell them.
I can smell them. They're so fucking funny together.
Yeah.
Again, it's just one of those things.
People come from the city to see Kennedy.
Good, then we won't be fighting traffic. Come on. Uncle Junior, you know I'm right.
So, I guess ultimately this does end up being a good thing for Junior. He does end up beating the cancer because of getting the second opinion. And if he had just done another surgery, maybe he wouldn't have survived
Who knows?
the surgery.
Maybe the surgery he's fine, but
yeah, it's a tough situation. And again, having been in not as intense of a situation, but a similar situation where I got a diagnosis, I went to one doctor that made one assumption about what I had without much research and just kind of went in there and did his quick blah, 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 blah. I was accepting it. Just like Junior, I was like, the doctor said it, so this is what needs to happen, right? And then someone else turned to me and went, you need to go get a second opinion. Went to go get a second opinion, and the other doctors like came at it with a plan. Like, this is what you need to do, X, Y, Z. We need to cut this shit out of you. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then talked about how the other doctor wasn't really doing his job. And it made you think like, oh shit, not all doctors are created equal, which is something you can naively not realize. Sometimes that you're like, oh, I got referred to this. He's a good doctor. It's fine. He knows what he's saying. And that's why the second opinion thing is important. But it does serve to put Junior in a fucked up place. But once he gets Kennedy's approval at the end of the episode, he's fine. He's in a fucked up place because he feels like he betrayed Kennedy.
And Tony gets to the point where he realizes that the only way Junior's going to listen or be okay with what's happening to him is if he goes and makes sure that
if he makes sure that Kennedy goes as well.
Kennedy's on board.
Fritz, I have not watched the Last Kingdom yet, but I hear amazing things about it. For whatever reason, when I started watching Vikings, I chose that path, and I know they're completely different shows, but share some characters profiles that are similar. I know they just announced the last season coming out, so I am going to probably try to binge watch it before the final season. But no, I have not officially watched The Last Kingdom. I have watched an episode or two here and there, and it seems like an amazing show. It's just a matter of sitting down to watch it.
Phil, I screwed up my thing. Where are you right now?
I'm at 32-35 I'll be at in a second. Tony's beating the shit out of Andy Buppitzairo's car.
32-35. All right, I'm going to get back.
Or now it will be 32-45. So Ralph's not as good as Phil Leotardo, though. JR outlives Tony, so it's not too bad. That's true. He does. Junior does outlive Tony in a bad situation, but he does. We're at I was just at 33 exactly a second ago.
Yeah, I'm at 33 exactly right now. So I'm back where I was. I'm back where I started.
Yeah,
real smooth.
Yeah, you tried to catch up, and it all fucking.
I went backwards, and I went the other way too.
Fritz says, I think you'll like it. I watched it 4 times already. And Jay, I saw that you left me a message. We're getting towards the end of the episode. We got about 15 minutes or so left.
No, we have a lot longer than we thought. We're about halfway through. Phil.
Halfway through. But I will play your message at some point in time soon when we get a second, Jay.
Think about that fat fuck husband of yours and what he did to you.
Him.
Not me.
You talk about oven cleaner.
Yeah, talk about advocating. And then the dog isn't even sick. So do you think Angie... I always wondered this because I don't think they play it clear enough. Do you think Angie knows that... Okay, 2 things. Does Angie suspect that Tony killed him? Or does she really believe the story that he went off to the feds? And the other part of that is the
question is, does Angie know he was with the feds?
Right, and I think that was the second part of my question. Does Tony think on some level that maybe she does know, and he's sort of passively an asshole to her because of thinking that, she must have known the situation, but there's no real proof?
I think he's more pissed off that he has to pay out for a snitch to his wife because it's the right thing to do, and because he has to do it. I don't... My guess would be, unless she knows that he was talking to the FBI, my guess would be that she just assumes that Tony and Pussy were too close for him to ever do that to him. But I don't... What the hell do I know?
Samuel says she knows. She probably knows. I get the vibe, the way she looks at Tony, that I always thought she knows, but I love how they play it a little vague here. And so, Matt, is Tony justified in his treatment of Angie? Matt.
I heard you.
Matt's like, that question is baiting. I won't.
No, I'm trying to think. The problem is I don't really fully understand what his responsibility is as like the boss to be paying. Like, I don't think you have to pay.
No, it's.
I don't fucking know. I don't know.
It depends what happened to him. Like by him going. I agree, Matt. It's like it's unclear what Tony's responsibilities are in that situation where Pussy has gone to the feds or was ratted and got killed because of it.
I think one of the real things is that like Tony can't let anyone know that they did that because of the fact that he was that he was working for the feds, and that if anyone were to say anything or if that sort of got out, they could get him to flip on Tony. So Tony really knows that the only people he can trust with that information are the 2 people that are on the boat with him that day. I think those are the only people that probably actually know that.
So in that,
he trusts those 2 people with his life, like Phil and Paulie. I mean, Sil and Paulie.
So Tony basically gets understands the situation that Carmela got put into. He wants $50,000. He gives her $3 or $4,000 and says, "That's it. You won't get any more from me." So then we go to this scene, and this doctor gives it to Junior in a different way, in a more broken down way.
I'm afraid that's a possibility. You see, with Kennedy, you don't get these maybes, possibilities.
Yeah, we're gonna do surgery again.
Dr. Kennedy is an excellent surgeon. Isn't there somewhere you people could just agree? Sure.
And this leads into this weird situation where they have the cancer board where they decide what the treatment should be. And Kennedy basically does say he thinks that surgery is the best and holds on to it, because we might end up talking over that scene, so we'll just complete this thought. And he gives up on it because he doesn't want to deal with this guy, because this guy's too much a stickler for the rules, because he's from Sloan Kettering and I don't want to deal with that fucking shit. So let him do whatever he wants to do. And Kennedy drops his whole thing and then ignores Junior and passively kind of hates him for going, or passively, "You're dead to me now because you got a second opinion." Have you ever been in a situation with a doctor that you've gotten a second opinion, or you've not taken a treatment from a doctor that they've suggested and they've gotten pissed at you?
JFK worship of yours.
I mean, I've not done what my doctors asked me to do a whole bunch of times in my life. So, like,
No, okay, mine's.
They've been pissed at me for not listening to their advice of like, dude, lose weight, dude, lose weight. Like, yeah, a million
I
times.
guess I mean
But
more something with like elective surgery. Like I had this ear, nose, and throat thing going on, and this doctor's like, can't figure out what's going on. So we could do some surgery. We don't really need it, but we could just open up your earwaves and do all this shit. And he like booked the surgery before I had a chance to really decide. He's like, you decide afterwards. And then when I canceled it because I was like, I don't really need this. And I, what's the point? And he was like, oh my God, you come into my office all the time and you're blah, 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 blah. And you want me to solve a problem.
I haven't had that happen. No, the doctors that didn't like, I've never gone back to again.
Dwarfburger says, I never really liked this Junior story. No, I listen to my doctor all the time. Dwarf says, so Matt, she knows she's just being a lazy princess. But it depends the situation. I mean, if I'm going to my trusted physician that I've been going to for years that you have a good rapport with, I tend to always listen to those doctors. But if I'm going to seek a specific treatment and, like when I got my cancer diagnosis thing and one doctor said, oh, I don't fucking know, like, I definitely wanted to go see a second doctor and see what a second doctor had to say before I accepted what that first doctor, which seemed underprepared, had to say. So you got to take every situation.
I've had a lot of doctors give me random stuff that I didn't believe over the years, and I was like, yeah, I don't like that I didn't listen to what they said, but I had my primary care physician for years. I loved and trusted, and it was great. So I've never had that issue.
That's why the personal dynamic is important, and I think you get that in this episode, which is the point. The point isn't fuck doctors; they're stupid. Don't listen to your doc. The point I think that David Chase is trying to tell in this episode is that it's not always what it seems. Doctors are humans too, and there's good ones and there's bad ones, and treat your patients like humans. I bet some doctor treated David Chase like not like a human, and he wrote this like the Kennedy part to have him like
a surgeon did, right? A surgeon treated him like shit once.
Let's threaten a surgeon because surgeons are just fucking assholes and they tell you what to do, and I want to feel like a human. Something like that. You mentioned this scene earlier, Matt, how awkward it is when AJ comes back.
Oh my God. It's so painful.
And I love this scene with Christopher and Tony, where Christopher is trying to explain.
And he makes the little comment about his tiny dick.
Tiny dick and stuff. Tony doesn't care though, right? Tony views this all as healthy hazing.
No, not the sniffing the panties part.
Paulie's complicated. Complicated. Quirky. That's what it is, quirky. Is that the word you'd use to describe Paulie? Quirky. The Dev. Oh, great. AJ showed up. So, this is at the foundation of Tony prepping Christopher at this point to eventually take over for him. So Christopher's very high on his list right now.
But Tony also doesn't want to. He also knows he has images to upkeep, so he's not giving. He's letting the hazing happen because he doesn't want it to look like he's giving his nephew a free pass.
Special treatment. Yeah.
Part of that's probably for Christopher's benefit because he'll never be taken seriously if he doesn't go through his lumps, and no one will ever respect him.
What do I know Kennedy from? What other stuff? He's been in tons of shit, right?
Probably.
Tony is a jerk. That's why he's killed. So we already talked about the scene. So Tony is a jerk. He is a fucking jerk. And
no, he's not. He's running a crew of assholes, and someone has to be in charge of him. And
I gotta look.
I mean, can you just imagine someone else instead of Tony being in charge of this family of people? Like,
maybe. I mean, did
you name anyone else?
Jackie
show?
Jackie Senior? Like, was Jackie?
Oh, for the love of, we don't even know Jackie Senior. You never saw Jackie Senior outside of a hospital bed.
But that's what I'm saying. Was he the better person than Tony running this family? It was a more peaceful time.
That's not my question. My question is, have you seen someone? Yeah, but that's only because Jackie was in control. Like, anytime someone leaves, there's a vacuum is created. Same thing happened when Carmine Senior died.
Yeah, I mean, in that family, I think the only other person that we've seen that possibly could lead in that way was Meadow.
Waiting for it.
Meadow.
Oh, what the fuck, Meadow?
But out of the crew, I mean,
that's what I mean. Is out of the crew. Like, name someone that could honestly just handle Ralphie, handle Richie, deal with Paulie, deal with Bobby Bacala, deal with Christopher, deal with all those people.
I mean, it's definitely not Syl. We've come to that point. It can't be Syl. Can't be Paulie. Maybe Christopher if he matured.
Maybe Carlo because he's older. But Carlo's not, is he even in this yet? I haven't even seen Carlo yet. Right? Is he more just later?
Yeah, he pops in a little bit more later. Okay, so I'm looking at this guy's IMDb for. Okay, he's been in like so much shit.
This is Paulie making the line. Oh, after that, anything that touches a pussy is off limits.
Paulie is not quirky. The mafia is no different from a fraternity or a cult, which requires intonations involving humiliation. Jackie Sr. was better, more respected. More respected, less emotional, was able to keep a sense of
We don't even know it. Dude,
it's the vibe we got.
Bed.
We got the flashbacks.
He was dying of cancer. No one's going to go in and bust his balls while he's dying of cancer.
There was a flashback episode or two.
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
Jesus Christ.
There's no one else on that
Junior.
show that could have done what Tony
Junior
does.
could have.
Yeah, sure. Junior could have. But he's under house arrest and half dead.
And has dementia. But besides that. So this scene's not sad, but it's like it really shows how much Tony cares about Junior in this scene. Like, there's no agenda here with Tony. And yeah, he's a horrible freaking sociopathic murder guy. But I'm just saying, in this moment right here, you see that this is his Uncle Junior that he played catch with. He used to bring him to ball games. Told him he didn't have...
He's also the only person left from that generation of his family, I think.
And compared to the three people like that he had in his family like that, Livia, Johnny Boy, and Junior was probably the nicest.
Yeah.
You know, he's probably the one that took him to ball games, the one that would play catch with him, the one that claimed all of his games. You know, you think Johnny Boy...
And they just watched Bobby's dad die 2 episodes ago. Like, there's that mortality that's been going on.
Do you, like, growing up, who was nicer to Tony, Johnny Boy or Junior? Of course it was Junior. You know, like Johnny Boy was like, fuck that. He's a douchebag.
Yeah, well, and Johnny Boy would take him to the fucking take him to Coney Island or wherever the fuck, and like leave him so he could go be an idiot the whole time and not be a dad and not hang out with him and not spend time with him. So
Christopher already getting into whores here, and
dude, if you were like,
I know what you're thinking. If you had Adriana at home, you're paying for that.
Adriana, who's always down, right? Too.
Always
down.
down.
Why would you?
The Adriana that we've seen, the character of Adriana is always down for Christopher. Like
that's what I'm saying. There's no. That's.
Ahmed says Paulie Walnuts would have been the best leader after Tony, since he's fearless, ruthless, and is connected to the New York families. And
not smart enough.
But that's the question that we need to almost look at as we get towards the final season here, Matt. Who does take over? If we accept, and I know not everyone accepts this, but if we're to accept that,
I don't think anyone accepts it. But go ahead.
But that Tony dies in the final episode, a lot of people accept that.
I don't think anyone accepts your other stupid theory, which is that
Paulie and fucking what's his name?
Patsy.
But no, yeah. But who's boss after all that? Patsy or Paulie? It's one of the two. It has to be. Unless Syl comes out of the coma. So Junior being the nicest of any of the group speaks to how fucked up that group must have been, says Saul Goodman. Saul Goodman is always getting some logic. And I tend to agree with Ahmed. Paulie would probably be the boss over Patsy.
He's not calculating it smart enough, but he is for a time period. But someone would fuck him over and he'd be done.
Right, like, he'd be the acting boss. He would be the one that would take over for Tony and be the face of the family if Tony died.
Like that's the thing about Tony is he can manage being on the top of that mountain and keeping everything else where it needs.
Now
to be.
we get another big mouth Billy Bass situation here where it gets brought back into Tony's life again. That comes in later, but also
like literally 3 seconds ago, Christopher thought he was going to shoot.
Right, that's what I wanted to say before the scene ends. Is that in that scene, Christopher thinks Paulie's going to shoot him there, and he reaches for his gun, and he's ready to go, and that just again sets up more problems that they end up having down the line. It's just a constant problem here. As I love. When they
absolutely love this scene.
Love it, dude. When he works, when Dominic, what's his name? Fucking why am I blanking on his
Furio, Tony?
Furio. When Furio works, like stupid the fucking
And when he says he calls him Mr. Williams or someone, he's like, my friend here, Mr. Whatever he calls him, Mr. Smith or Mr.
You got a bug on your head.
Yeah.
Stupid the fucking game. It's just so perfect.
Whatever he calls him, the most American name in the world. Yeah, my friend, Mr.
My
Williams.
friend, Mr. Williams. Stupid the fucking game.
Mr. Williams, that's it. Yeah.
What can I do with it? Just be a minute.
Yeah. Play through, and then they just back him into the water. This is such a great fucking scene.
Yeah. Come on, take it. You know you want it, and just.
Again, this is one of those, and I feel like this is a David Chase fantasy played out kind of scene where I have a show. I fucking hate a doctor that fucked me over, a specific doctor, a specific surgeon that fucked me over.
You're totally making this up, but okay.
I am making. We'll ask Johnny Sack when we interview him on this show if he knows. When we get David Chase, if we can get Johnny Sack, we can get David Chase. It's one step away, Matt. It's too real to not be real. Yeah, you got something on your head.
You got a bee on your hat. And
You
he
got
just
a-
knocks in the water.
I love it. We got 2 voicemails from Jay. I see your second voicemail, Jay. We will definitely be playing both your voicemails before the end of the night. If anybody else wants to call in as we're getting towards the end of the episode, leave a voicemail at 781-990-8509. You can also leave a text if for whatever reason I miss your chat.
Just remember it.
And problem is that Paulie's a blabbermouth and might incriminate himself the first week. Yes, Dwarf Burger says I'm fan fictioning that whole scene. That's okay. I'm head canoning fan fictioning.
The whole thing with Paulie too is when the thing with Vito goes down later on in season 6, and there's the whole like, fuck that, I want him dead right now. Everyone in that room has some crazy reaction, and the only person that's level-headed and gives any thought to the situation whatsoever is Tony. He's the only one who's level-headed about the whole thing.
You gotta feel like
Place a great deal of stock in
Fucking
the sanctity
Carmela.
of the family. And I am not
Oh my
sure-
God! Can we just listen to this scene?
For 31 years.
Well, then you know how difficult it can be.
this actor, the actor they have playing this therapist, is like has Mike level from Breaking Bad level, like he could play Mike's dad or something.
Yeah.
Sincerely unfaithful. Is that your definition?
So
Good man.
I thought psychiatrists weren't supposed to be judgmental.
no, fuck that.
Many patients want to be excused for their current predicament because of events that occurred in their childhood. That's what psychiatry has become in America. Visit any shopping mall or ethnic pride parade to witness the results.
What we say in here stays in here, right?
By ethical code, by law.
I guess this scene is a little based on a reality of a therapist that was connected to the show that was treating like a murderer or a child abuser or something, and was like confessing their crimes to the therapist. I have the factoid written later. I'll read it in full. But to sum it up, was basically the therapist told them to go confess, put themselves in jail, and read Crime and Punishment. And one of the writers took that and wrote this scene based around that, like real life situation where a therapist said something very similar to a murderer, or I forget if it was a murderer or like a child molester or something. So it was like some horrible crime, and got them to like turn themselves in.
Saul, you're correct. You're right. I doubt he has the same.
You're wrong about the accomplice part, though.
Well, Vito was Tony's best earner.
And the same thing happened with Ralphie. Like,
But
he
they
came
say
down to the money. And that's even why Carmine Sr. excuses Ralphie for the comments that was made about Johnny's wife, is because we're making a lot of money over at the Esplanade.
there's also, but that's the thing too about that crew that we get to later when Vito starts making all the money. Is that crew's just made for money. So is it really about Richie and I'm not Richie. Is it really about Ralphie and then Vito after that and what they're doing specifically, or is that just right place, the right time? Like Junior says to Tony.
Vito's family is like legitimately in construction. His brother was the one that got beat up.
Yep.
There's also the weird scene that is still awkward, like how Vito was in 2 separate episodes, not as Vito early on in The Sopranos. As 2 different characters earlier in The Sopranos. Neither one of them being Vito.
You won't understand this, but Vito was a faceless man. And yes, I like the headcanon as is Mike is Mike's dad. We're gonna do that. We're gonna headcanon that. Mafia wife tears. Oh, poor baby, says Dwarfberger. I love the absolute harsh, amazing energy that Dwarfberger Swampbeard has for Carmela in the scene. As much.
You can't either.
This is my favorite line of it all.
One thing you can never say. That you haven't been told.
Damn. I mean, there's so much that we could have, as you said, we could have listened to every word of that. But I think that's an amazing way to end this up, where he basically just, we said it earlier, tells her everything that she doesn't want to hear, but all truth and a little assumption, but a lot of truth. And
very, like, almost no one. Everyone walks on eggshells around Carmela because of who she is, including Melfi in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, everyone walks on eggshells because of who her husband is. That guy does not.
Buster.
Give a fuck.
Doesn't give a fuck. And those of you that don't know, we mentioned it earlier, that the nurse or the doctor giving the chemo right there is none other than Buster Bluth, or
it's Gary from Veep.
It's Buster from Arrested Development.
It's Gary from the funniest show that's been on in the last.
Yeah, you're right. He is from the funniest show, Arrested Development. But no, but
Veep. He's amazing in Veep.
2 great shows. One of my all-time Hollywood crushes is Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I think she's one of the funniest actors ever to, like, so underrated. I think everything she's been on, she's hilarious.
This is a weird ass scene here. I don't understand what's happening here.
This is the scene where I was talking about this earlier.
I know, but then he's like, let's go out for dinner. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Because because he basically bought her happiness there. Like, this is her playing a manipulation to me. This is her playing another fucking, like, game with him and showing the power she has. I'm
more shocked that she goes from sleeping on the couch to out in public.
Because it's
Carmela would never go out without, like, mob bossing her hair up.
Because it's crocodile tearsy. Like, she was planning this all along.
She pulls it off and she's got heels on.
Yeah.
Her makeup's all done. She's ready to go. A purse around her shoulder.
Yeah, she's got a base.
Walks out the door.
She's got a base. She goes upstairs. She's taking that off. She's got the full outfit on. Don't let her fool you. She's got her going out jewelry.
She's got breakaway pants. She just pulls them off and she's ready to go.
She's already taken the $50,000 out of the bird feeder. She's got that fucking money. Vala Gabagool. Thank you, Gecko. Thank you for the crossover appearance there. It's to someone the mafia bosses are as good. Yeah, to someone the mafia bosses are as good as poison. He would be very disappointed in his son's business at that point in time.
He would.
He would be. He would tell him he wouldn't take any of that.
Although his son had one of the best deaths in any.
Fair enough.
Leave me alone. Let me die in peace.
And
whatever he says to him.
And he could have got all the fried chicken he could have, like, handled in his life. Like free polos, and that's that shit's delicious.
Oh yeah.
That shit's delicious.
Say what you want about Gus Fring, but that Pollo Hermanos is delicious.
Yeah, but that dude can make some good fucking chicken. Dwarf Burger says, "Yup, fake mafia wife tears disappear if I get $50,000." Exactly. When Devin and I agree, we're right, because we don't always agree. So when we agree, it's true. It's like fake.
Hold on, for everyone here who doesn't know this,
I'm sorry.
Dwarfberger's entire existence has been about playing devil's advocate to everything that he possibly can at any point in his life. He picks the opposite side of what someone wants to say.
He does, like, wear his, like, he unbuttons his shirt like Superman. There's a T there for troll on his shirt. It's, in fairness, like, before a troll was a troll, Devin existed at a party to go.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that. So, but you're right. Decent setup. issue, but like you said, nothing big. The end of the Vito Security episode in the 5th season, Meadow describes the Mafia like the origin story of the Faceless Men. Pretty cool. There is a lot of crossover to the Faceless Men. So Carmela shakes herself back up there. The music comes back on to go that she's romanticized back into the life again. Tony is in complete denial that his life is almost over. A decent setup episode, as Matt said, but not a big episode, not compared to the last 3 episodes of The Sopranos. The next couple ones, the next one called He Has Risen, that we're going to get into next week, is a big Janice episode, if I remember correctly. It's the one where...
Oh, is that the one where she comes back with the dude?
Yeah, where they have the Christian rock band. That was a great mother-jumping lyric, Janice.
Oh, time out. We did leave this out of our list of best actors. Janice is 100% at the top of that list.
Yes.
Not the very top, but she's in that... At the pyramid with Tony and Carmela, she's that next tier.
Dude,
Christopher.
It's so tough because there's such a line in television and movies when someone plays a character that's detestable that you think that you're like, I fucking hate that person. And she created that kind of vibe on television to a lot of people at the time that the show aired. And you got to respect and admire actors that can do that. Someone like James Spader, that's just an actor that you see on screen. You're like, he's a douchebag. I'm sure he's a lovely person in real life. I don't know anything about him. I've never seen an interview with him. But like, you see him on screen, it's like, that guy's a douchebag. Some people play those parts and those kind of things so well. She plays narcissistic fucking crazy person so fucking well on television. And
that's the part, there's so much to that character that you don't see at first. She's just crazy, then there's soft spots, and then there's the whole insanity. Then she goes toe to toe with it. That's the other thing that she does that only a few people can do. Goes toe to toe with Tony, goes toe to toe with everyone else, goes toe to toe with Richie, obviously. And Ralphie.
Yep, the Joffrey effect. Thank you, Gecko. And for those of you that are looking for some more Game of Thrones discussion, I will be talking about House of the Dragons with Joe here on the channel soon. He'll be on this Thursday evening. Joe and I will be talking here at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be talking about the season finale of Invincible, and we'll also be talking a little bit to Joe about some House of Dragons stuff. But tomorrow night at around 6 p.m., I will be on Teflon TV, and if you're watching this later, you can check it out later, with Tony Teflon and Bridge 4 talking about some Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire stuff. The topic for tomorrow night is going to be Robert's Rebellion stuff we're going to be talking about. So come check that out tomorrow night on Teflon TV at about 6 o'clock p.m. And this Thursday evening, and if you're watching this way later, you can just look ahead or look back in the video lineup there to see on Thursday Joe and I to talk about the Invincible season finale and some other stuff right there. But you ready for a couple of voicemails that we have from Jay? This could go any direction, Matt. Jay sometimes asks about things that have nothing to do with the shows we're watching or different things like this. So he could ask us right now about, do you remember the movie Days of Thunder? And when
never saw it.
When Rowdy, but you never saw Days. You didn't. It was one of the 2 or 3 movies where Tom Cruise played the same exact. I mean, all of his roles. He played the cocky young guy. That movie where Tom Cruise played the cocky young guy.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. That one. Now he plays the cocky middle-aged guy, and eventually he'll be the cocky senior citizen guy. But the funny thing is, he looks the same age through the whole time. So I don't know what kind
really does.
I don't know what kind of vampire blood.
Honestly, his best role ever was Born on the 4th of July. We're not getting into that. Let's go. I mean, besides Tropic Thunder, obviously.
Dwarf. It's just a channel here on YouTube. If you just search Teflon TV, you'll see it. I tend to pop over there on Saturdays and Wednesdays for I'm part of a podcast called The Usual Suspects with Tony and Bridge 4, where we talk about Game of Thrones stuff. The two of them will be joining on this channel too for some other odd subjects as well, and on Bridge's channel too. And but every Wednesday we do a Game of Thrones discussion on Tony's channel, and then I also pop over there on Saturday evenings for an After Dark stream, usually around 10:30, 11 o'clock on Saturday evenings for some drunken debauchery that gets deleted when it's over. So if anyone wants to check out more of that stuff on, I'm usually over there on Wednesdays and Saturdays with Tony. So yeah, the race car movie. But here's a couple of voicemails from our good buddy JSMB Down.
Yo, Phil. Question. In this show or like whatever, are there female mob bosses or whatever? Because I know in like more modern day like mob movies they have like female mob bosses. I was wondering if that was like a thing that they showed or alluded to at any given point. Or all right, later.
Now, I won't say a boss, but they do have a female character that comes into the show from the New York family that I believe is a captain in the New York, or is she just a hitter? I don't think they get into if is she an official member. Probably not, because they kill her with impunity. But Lorraine Caruso, I think is the character's name. It's one of the people that Phil kills.
Yeah.
But she
You'll suck our cocks. That's the line that she says. Yeah.
Is she a Shylock though? I'm not sure if she's a member. So I don't think within the Cosa Nostra type thing through any movies or television shows through this era on The Sopranos, I don't think we bump into that. Although,
in Italy, there's the wife.
Yeah.
There's not the wife. There's like a daughter in Italy of this old boss, and she sort of runs.
She runs it, and they make it a point to say that could never happen in the United States. But
Tony goes out of his way to say that.
But the closest we do see is Lorraine Caruso in season 6 in New York, who is either a hitter or a fixer or a Shylock that is. Or an associate, a very important associate in the Lupatazzi crime family. But she's not a made woman though. But they do imply she's a very important asset to the family, to Johnny Sack and to Carmine Sr. None respect her, the New York one.
Well, Phil and his crew didn't. But Phil was,
But I think some people like Little Laney. I think they looked at her as one of the gang though. But it's the vibe I always got. But again, I'd have to rewatch. It's been a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Maybe Chris and Theon. Saul Goodman. Hey Phil, I saw this post on Reddit asking people to find what characters are most similar in Game of Thrones and The Sopranos. I wonder if you could do that. All I have is Livia and Cersei are similar. Maybe Chris and Theon. I don't know about Chris and Theon. That's a decent one. Okay, Uncle Junior in the Queen of Thorns a little bit, both telling it how they are. Maybe Junior's not as clever. Tony Soprano in Bobby B. Very strong to getting the kingship, but once he gets it, he gets a little fat on the crown and enjoys his excesses a bit too much. Who's too honor bound in the Sopranos world? Nobody. So no one's a Ned Stark. Do we have a Tyrion? Do we have a wisecracking? I would say Christopher is like a cross between Tyrion and Theon, but he definitely has some Tyrion in him too. And I guess Tony has some Tyrion too. Like narrator talking to the crowd, having wisecracks and such. But that's a couple quick thoughts on that. I'd have to stop and really think about that. That's a good one.
You want my thoughts on it?
Yeah.
No.
Could you tell me who the Sopranos characters are most like on the Americans or something?
Well, of course I could do that, but that's not.
That's not Game of Thrones.
There's no fun in.
No one wants to see that. And if anyone else pops in, AJ and Sansa, Arya and Meadow, because they're both so capable. But anyways, here's Jay's second message.
Hey, yo, Phil, Matt. Question. I don't watch this show, but I'm just wondering, if you're saying Paulie is, like, not smart enough, could Paulie become the number one and then and then get a number two, like a right hand or whatever that is really smart, that sort of directs some things or whatever and sort of steers him into smarter decisions so that like he could be the leader and not get fucked over? Just saying.
No, and that's a good point.
You can tell me why you think that's stupid. Maybe it is. I don't watch the show. Let me know.
No, I don't think it's stupid. I just think that Paulie has too big of an ego. From what we know about Paulie Walnuts, and in having not seen him, he's a very very egotistical character. And if he ever got too much power, I don't think he could allow himself to really listen to a consigliere.
Irrationally and listen to someone talk him down. Tony listens to
Sil.
He listens to Sil. He listens to Hesh. He listens to, like, you see him do stuff like listen to even Carmela's cousin about investing and stuff like that. Like he defers to people that know what they're talking about. Where Paulie always thinks that his take is the right take, no matter what it is.
Paulie would be a worse example of Santino from the Godfather movies. All emotion, and even if he had a Tom Hagen there to try to give him some sensible advice on how to handle it and be business only personal, he would just steamroll him with stupidity. Just look at, we'll go down the road a little bit to Pine Barrens, where he's in charge of Christopher in that situation, and things like that would happen all the time. You only need to look to that episode, to a couple of episodes down the line, and how he handles a simple pickup situation because his ego gets bruised a little bit.
And doesn't think about any of the ramifications about Tony is right now having hundreds of thousands of dollars laundered by this guy's boss.
I don't know.
As we speak right now. Like doesn't bother him, doesn't care.
I don't care.
Acts irrationally and blows up a whole situation.
Okay, Matt, and this is an easy one because I think one is a very easy one-to-one comparison. Do you have any Breaking Bad to Soprano comparisons for characters? Who is the Christopher Who is the Christopher in Breaking Bad? It's kind of, come on, Jesse.
It's Jesse, right? Obviously.
You got Paulie Walnuts and Sil are Skinny Pete and Badger.
No. You gotta give Sil more credit than that.
Okay. Paulie Walnuts is Skinny Pete and Badger. That's
fine.
But he's both of them. He's the amalgamation of both of them. Walt is Tony, even though they're not the same character. I mean, I think it's a fair one-to-one sort of to a certain extent. But Walt's a completely different character.
Johnny Sack is Gus Fring in weird ways. Just in how smooth
or
and
Phil, but I guess John's more. Tony never really had a Gus. Never really had someone that was better than
didn't.
him.
I'm just saying if we have to
do that, but
because they're not friends, I guess, really.
But I don't think Tony and Walt are a good one for one. I guess they just because they're head of the show. So is there a Walt on The Sopranos? Ralphie? Is Ralphie Walt?
No, God no. Ralphie's more like Walt Jr. than I'm just kidding.
He does make
AJ is Walt Jr. I mean that's an easy one.
No. You were right with Ralphie because he makes really great breakfast. He
does. Yeah.
Can you make me breakfast? 3 more to the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens are going to be a fun thing. I don't think there is any Tony on the Breaking Bad or Walt on The Sopranos. I don't think there's. I can't really think of a parallel with either character. Yeah. Sil is Saul. Saul says Sil is him. I guess comic relief. A lot of isms, a lot of the way he talks, and he got his own spin-off show with Lilyhammers.
Yeah, and they both serve as advisors.
In advisory roles, yeah. And both of them will tell the main guy off if he needs to. That's one of those underrated things about Sil. Sil really does read people really well and knows how to tell Tony he's wrong without bruising Tony's ego. He's really good at...
Until later in the show, when he goes, you're getting strange as an old man. There's that great line.
Great line.
Yeah. Acting out of line. Yeah.
You're getting a little squirrely in your old age, or something to that effect. Maybe Saul, maybe Foul Brute. You might be right.
There's no Mike either, and Mike's, probably the best character on that
Big
show.
Pussy is Mike. Is Big Pussy Mike? Is Skip Mike?
Real is Big Pussy Mike. Yeah. You imagine Mike ever flipping on anyone? No chance.
No. So not much else to say.
Mike's Paulie actually. Not but
I see what you're going with that.
They have anger issues. They are trustworthy to a fault.
He's not as capable as Mike, though.
Who?
Paulie's not as capable as Mike.
Trustworthy in a bulldog, though.
He is. He's trustworthy. Just as trustworthy. And that's the one thing Paulie's easy to make fun of, but he's the most loyal guy that Tony has.
Not trustworthy is to not fuck something up, but trustworthy where he's loyal, dependable, and he'll do what he can. But Paulie will fuck. Mike would never fuck anything up. Paulie fucks.
That being said, all of this being said, I want to, because we keep ragging on Paulie, but saying all this loyalty, I want to hold out till we get to the point where he tries to flip families. We got to get into all that when we get to it. And we'll put a Joe Stress in this because of the reason why he decides to talk about the Jenny Sack joke, why he fucking tries to leave the family and join New York until he realizes that Johnny Sack's been playing him the whole time. So we're gonna get into that, the one moment where Paulie isn't as loyal. Which ultimately leads to that boat that Tony almost kills him on. So we'll get into that much later, but I do think in general you're right. Paulie, as funny as it is to say, especially once Pussy's gone, is Tony's go-to guy when he needs something done. Silvio, not Silvio, second time I can't think of his fucking name. Ponytail dude that tried to fuck Carmela, Furio. Furio ends up being that to a certain extent, like the muscle, but...
Yeah, but Furio tries to bang his wife.
Yeah, he does. Or
that's not really trustworthy.
Making out. Is Skylar White like Carmela?
No, because Skylar White's a terrible actress.
We're not talking about the actress, dude. As a character in the way that they... No. In
the sense that she's complicit, though, at a certain point.
She's more complicit. Skylar's
more so, and yeah, takes advantage a lot.
Carmela, in a weird, even though Skylar becomes part, they're analogous for sure. Uncle D, Studio 11. I can definitely make a comparison between the two of them in a lot of ways, but some of their most base instincts are different. Where Carmela has more agency in her personality. When we really eventually when the real person comes out. When we first meet Skylar, she's very controlling of Walter. Like very controlling, like you jump, you high, almost to the point where Carmela probably would have been if she married the guy her mother wanted her to marry.
Right. I mean, Carmela married a guy in the mob, and Skylar married a chemistry teacher.
Right. Exactly. Carmela's more complicit and has more agency in her life. That being said, once it happened and once they're both in the life, Skylar, the only way Skylar could handle it was by being a part of it. She wanted to be way more part of it than Carmela ever did, or could comprehend, or could even help. You know, like Skylar's capable. She's really good with numbers. She's really good as like running the business aspect of things and keeping like some element of a humanity to Walter's personality. I don't think Carmela adds a lot to Tony's humanity. I think what the psychologist calls her out, an enabler. She's an enabler of Tony's lifestyle, where Skylar kind of tries to challenge Walt through the whole situation, and when he does push back at her, she gets to a point where she's like, no more, but she still is loyal to him through it all, with the communicating with him, with allowing him to get away essentially and stuff too. So I don't know.
Let me ask you a question though, because this is a fundamental, I know we said that they're not the same person.
But there's similarities.
Tony and Walter, though, we're saying at the end.
Yep.
But are you still rooting for Tony at the end of this show?
No.
When do you stop rooting for? Are you rooting for Tony now?
Yes. I stopped rooting for Tony personally, for me, even though
season 6, towards the end of season 6?
When he kills Christopher, really. Like that moment is when I feel like all humanity got sucked out of him.
And even James Gandolfini said that's the moment for him too when that happened. Like he was like, "All right, I'm done."
There's only 3 or 4 episodes after that, but at the end, I'm not sure if I'm rooting for Tony in the war against New York. I'm not sure if I was rooting for him to die in that moment either. I was just like, I felt dirty.
I guess the biggest difference is you stop rooting for Walt a lot sooner.
But then you root for Walt again, though. When he's fucking killing Nazis, saving Jesse.
Oh, sure. But have you ever wanted... I don't think there's a person on the face of the earth that's rooting for him over that's rooting for Walt over... what's Asax Schrader's real first name?
Oh, Dean Norris.
No, but what's the character's name?
It's Hank Schrader, and you can go fuck yourself, Matt.
No, it's Asax Schrader.
Asax Schrader, and you can go fuck yourself.
I don't think there's anyone on the face of the earth that's rooting for.
I mean, Hank's an asshole.
Asax
like I actually hate Hank as a personality type. The way he
in the beginning of the show, he's completely unlikable.
And right at the end, and at the end too, he's.
But I'm rooting for him to take down.
Yeah, I'm rooting at the end. The only character I'm rooting for is Jesse. Fuck Hank at the end.
Yes, at the very end. But I would have rooted for Hank to take down Walt at that
if he didn't do what he did to Jesse at the end. When he takes Jesse into his house and it looks like he's taking care of him, him, and then it turns out that he's using him as a sort of as a like a Trojan shield to get in there, a Trojan horse to get in there, and like basically let him sacrifice himself to get Walt. You learn that he's sort of way too obsessed. He's way too Batman about it. But I do agree in that moment when again, Breaking Bad spoilers, when the fucking garage door closes, where that one moment he pushes the button, the garage door closes, you're rooting for Hank. You're definitely rooting for Hank. No one's rooting for Walter. Walter, from the moment he kills Jessica Jones, I think a lot of people stopped rooting for Walter. That was the moment where Walter's hat turned around and he became a bad guy. Who's a worse person? We'll end on this question. Who is a worse person, all in all, beginning to worst character, not worse as in a bad character, Tony Soprano or Walter White?
Walter White's worse a million times over.
Million times.
No, I don't know. Fuck.
Let me hear your math. I want to hear your math. Show me the math, Matt. Show me the math.
I can't do it off the top of my head.
Want to do a special video?
I don't think Tony's a bad guy at the end of the. What am I saying? What am I saying when I say that? Like, that's so fucked up. I'm sitting here defending him.
Saul Goodman's like in that war at the end. What you gonna do? Root for Phil? Yeah, and that's true. It's like at the end, the only reason I'm still rooting for Tony is because it's like, who you gonna do? Root for Phil? They did a good job at the end of Breaking Bad. Smart enough putting Walt up against like the most detestable group of Nazi dick cheeses with Todd and his uncle and all those fucking assholes that you really hated at the end game there. And sometimes those kind of characters that get introduced at the end cannot work. But I really hated those guys in the desert with the whole thing with Hank and stealing Walt's money. Like
and then they enslave Jesse.
Right. The
one bitch who you've never seen a character in the history of television just get their ass beat more times than Jesse, and you're like, repeatedly, he just keeps getting his ass beat through the whole show, and you're always rooting for Jesse.
Now, Saul Goodman says, I root for Walt until season 5. Dwarfburger says Tony is worse by far. Willful versus desperate. And good point by Dev that Tony was willfully putting himself in a situation to be a killer and join a organization of, and again, we're talking about this television universe mafia, not real mafia, that a universe that is very accepting of easy killing, bam, 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 all the fucking time, like in this world. And his friends, his whatever, his family members, Walt. And again, I'm not saying what I agree with.
Walt is a monster. I don't want to hear it. He's a monster. Tony's not a monster.
Oh my goodness. I love this topic.
Walt is a monster by the end. Like, Jesse is petrified of him.
I don't know, dude.
Is petrified of him.
But he's still like a good person at heart. He still worries about his kids at the end.
Oh, yeah. He killed Mike for fucking no reason. Kills Mike.
He apologized.
No reason killed Mike.
He apologizes. He says Mike.
No reason killed Mike, and Mike's the only reason he's alive.
I love how he
Mike's for no reason.
I love how he goes up to Mike after that in a very Hal from Hal.
Right. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I shot you. I just realized I didn't need to do that. Jay in the live chat says, at the end I wasn't rooting for Jesse. He was a snitch. Fuck him. And that's why they did that to him too, because they figure out he's a snitch. Matt, we absolutely need to talk about Breaking Bad again too. We need to do a whole episode of this.
I have to be honest with you. I've only seen all of Breaking Bad one time. I should, if we're gonna do this, I gotta rewatch.
Yeah, in preparation, when we start to get towards the end of this Soprano run, in preparation, we won't do a full rewatch of Breaking Bad, but we'll do like what's there, 6 seasons or 5 seasons of Breaking Bad. Let's do one podcast for each season. You know what I mean?
If we haven't said this in a bunch of episodes, that one of the things that got us started on this was that Phil told me years ago I needed to watch Breaking Bad. And I go, am I going to like it? He goes, I know what you'd like, you'll like it. And I watched Breaking Bad. And I've really enjoyed Breaking Bad. It's funny, the night Phil told me to do it, I went home and my wife had watched the first 3 episodes. I go, what are you doing? She's like, I started watching Breaking Bad. I said, we're going to watch it together because Phil just told me tonight. It was really serendipitous how that happened. But either way, he told me that, and when I finally watched the whole show, and I probably watched it, I think I watched it all as a rerun. I think I binged the whole thing.
Yeah, you did. It was like a year after it ended.
Right? It was right after it ended, but it was
about a year.
Still like talked about. It was still really much like talked about. I just never seen it. But then I said afterwards, I still think The Sopranos is a better show. That's actually how this whole thing started, where we were going to talk about.
Going to talk about, and then eventually work that. I didn't watch Breaking Bad. I just just some episodes, the last one. Walt became a monster. Tony was always a monster. So a lot of good points. And eventually we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about The Sopranos versus Breaking Bad, but we're going to get into a double watching show. Oh, we got a text from area code 469. Love you guys. Great show. Highlight of my week. Oh, we're sorry. No, we're kidding. No, thank you so much for checking it out. No, we really do appreciate it. It's one of the highlights of our weeks too. We really love getting an opportunity to come out here and talk about The Sopranos, and I like having Matt and I haven't hung out this much since 900 days ago when we got together once a month to do these. So now I get to see Matt twice a month.
I've been living in Vermont for 2 years, and I haven't seen Phil since I moved up here, except for this. But so what that actually means, though, is I've seen Phil more than almost anyone else I've seen.
That's true. I mean, I was just gonna say, considering the last year of most people's lives, it's been This is you're somebody I've seen you, and no matter how many Joe lives close, and I've definitely been catching up. Joe's been, almost every Sunday, Joe's been coming back on and stuff, and we've been getting a rhythm together. But still, since I've moved in here and since like quarantine stuff, I think I've done more shows with, like, talk to you more than Joe, who lives like a couple blocks away, or definitely said, I can't remember the last time I saw Dev. It must have been the last game night we had, or like
over 2 years ago that I was there. It was the dude.
Or was that the escape room? Was it the escape room night?
Was probably the escape room night, or there was that weird one where people had to leave early or something. But no, that was in Salem.
Right.
Marblehead was the only one in Marblehead was the escape room night.
No, we had one other. We had one before that one that was an actual one.
Not in Marblehead, and I didn't play in it. If we did.
Oh, I guess I didn't invite you. No. I thought I have a memory of one there, but I could be wrong. Remember, I had it set up in the kitchen. Like I had the Nintendo 64 set up in the kitchen, and then I
wasn't there if that happened.
No, you were. You came.
I could have already been up here. Like I don't.
No, I think you came late. But we can talk about that off the air. Sorry, off topic. Will you be reviewing the 10 episodes of Dexter? I would have to catch up on that. There will be some coverage of that show. If I don't watch it, Joe will, and Joe will talk about it. And I do know a lot of other people. I am curious to see how the show comes back. It's interesting. It's like erasing an unhappy ending and try to come back and give people a more satisfying conclusion to a series that people built up a lot and really didn't like the ending. Spoiler alert, where he's just like, oh, I'm done with killing it. Like, people didn't like that. So I'm going to be interested to see when they come back. I love that actor. I loved him on 6 Feet Under. And it's good that I think that's a series that was open enough to have it come back, and considering the conclusion being unsatisfying, I'm excited, and there will be some discussion on it on the channel. I won't be doing it episode by episode, but I will be talking about it.
If anyone has watched The Sopranos now and didn't watch it when it came out, because you're not 1,000 years old like Phil and I are, you have to understand at the time, this ending has aged so much better than it did when it first happened. When this ending first happened to The Sopranos, if you've watched it recently,
some people
were like, everyone was hard. No one was happy, but it's aged a lot better since then, because no one had ever had to wrap up a show that was this.
It has, but it's still like, I accept the ending and I understand it. Like, I don't understand it, but I see what they were trying to do, but I still think it's a little bit of a cop-out ending.
Sure, but at the same time,
Oh, do you know that there was? I heard this on the Talking Sopranos, and then I read an article about it a couple of weeks ago. There actually is a continuation to the Sopranos out there that exists somewhere, and only a few people have seen it. Back right around the time, I believe, I could be correct. Someone can correct me in the comment section that if anyone else has read the story. HBO was commissioned by the New York Knicks to get in touch with Edie Falco and James Gandolfini, right before James Gandolfini died, I think, or a few years after, whenever this was, when LeBron James was doing his whole decision thing, I'm taking my talents to South Beach, like that whole thing.
D-bag.
When they were leading up that whole thing, all these teams were trying to get him to come to their particular team. And what the Knicks did, I believe, it was either the Knicks or the Nets, they hired James Gandolfini and Edie Falco to.
Probably was the Nets then, just because they were still in Jersey at the time.
Yes, but I think it was the Knicks. That's where it doesn't make sense. But I think it was the Knicks. It's something weird like that, where they filmed a short. It's like a 15-minute short or a 10-minute short, something like that, with Tony Soprano and Edie, and James Gandolfini has a full beard, and they're in witness protection program, the two of them, and it shows.
So he didn't die.
And it shows them getting used to life and making a plea to LeBron James to come play for the New York Knicks. I haven't seen it. I've just read about it and heard Michael Imperioli and Steve Sharip talking about it. So eventually that needs to be released. I would love to fucking see that. I heard Edie Falco talking about it too. She said it does exist. She originally wasn't going to do it. And then someone told her agent said, well, James Gandolfini's going to do it. She was like, he is? And then like she showed up there and she's like, heard her talking about it. She's like, I showed up there and there's James in character with a beard playing Tony Soprano, and we're reading dialogue about LeBron James coming to New York. So I want to see that. They need to release that shit. If they've released the stupid Snyder cut, I want to see that fucking shit. Let's a couple more comments before we call this an evening. And I agree, Matt. And I watch the series once a year religiously.
He's probably talking about me saying that the ending has aged better, I think, than when it came out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Phil, did you watch the Mortal Kombat movie? It was awesome. I did watch the Mortal Kombat movie. A lot of fun. I put it in the same category of enjoyment that I got out of watching Godzilla versus King Kong, just sort of like watching a lot of really great action stuff. I thought it was a decent representation of the video game. And I thought it's a good step in the right direction for video game movie adaptations, because usually they try to overdo it with too much story or too much whatever. This gave you exactly what you wanted from a Mortal Kombat movie. Was it an amazing, like, oh my God, this is great. Like, some people could find that were that kind of thing, but it was good for what it was trying to achieve, and shut my brain off and watch it and have some fun for a while. So yeah, I had a good time watching it. I wish Street Fighter could get a movie like that, because I'm more of a fan of the Street Fighter. If we're talking about fighting game series that were big in that time period, I'm more Team Street Fighter.
Really know how old Phil is at this point.
It's true. But hey, I'm Virtual Fighter old, Matt. I'm Karate Champ old. What was the first video? Actually, I can go further back. What was the first? Because I'm just doing fighting games. What was the very first arcade game you played? Do you remember that?
Arcade game?
Yeah. Did you play the arcade before you played a home game? I did. I
mean, I don't know. I remember playing Pac-Man. I don't know what I would have.
I remember playing Pac-Man, but the very first game I remember playing, and the only reason I'm saying this and ending it right here because it's relevant to the day, was the vector graphics Star Wars game that was in the arcade when we were kids. The one where you're doing the Death Star run with these like really shitty vector graphics, and you hear Obi-Wan's voice. It was it looked
like Asteroids. Like it was the same look that Asteroids had. Just the one color lines, right? It was just like the bluish. Like that's the only color.
Yeah,
you were going through the Death. You're doing the Death Star.
Yeah, it's called vector graphics, and it's like some of those early video games were right there. Jace's Pinball was the first video game. Dev, what was the first video game you played ever? And people, if you're listening to this in the comment section, I'm curious what the very first game, if it was an arcade game or a home console game. I clearly remember the first game I played was that Star Wars game, followed very closely by Jungle Hunt, Pac-Man, and Donkey Kong.
See, that's the hard thing. Is like what was. I don't remember if I played it like a 2600 before I played. I didn't have one. I had a 5200, which no one looked up an Atari 5200, one of the most failed video. Phil, I have had a list of some of the most failed video game systems in the world and never had good ones my whole life.
Would you get like Coleco and a Dreamcast or something?
I had an Atari 5200, which no one owned. People had 2600 and 7800. I had the 5200 in the middle. I had a Sega Master System instead of a Nintendo. Okay, like it was just.
Oh, you had the Masters. Oh, the Master. That's the bad choice. No, if you had the 7800 or the Master System. No, I did too. And like I had a 7800 instead of a Nintendo, and I'd have to go over to fucking Jay Hirsch's house to play the Nintendo, or Schlafman's house to play the Nintendo, because they were the only kids in my particular group of friends at that time that had Nintendo, and I had 7800. No one.
I was in Lynn still, but yeah, I was the same thing. I had a 7800 and slumming it.
Couple more questions before we go. M. Rollins says, I did play the arcade games. Great to see you, Roland, in the live chat. Pong at home, Asteroids in the Arcades is Studio 11. I'm old as shit. Studio 11, Uncle D, you're probably similar age as us. That sounds about right to us as well, my friend. I think we're of the same generation going on here, Uncle D. TIE Fighter was really good. Predictions of the Sopranos movie. So hopefully it comes out soon, Matt. That's going to be another special episode that Matt and I do of this. Are you excited? Or are you more meh about a potential Sopranos prequel movie?
I think that, of course I'm excited about it. I think it will be great to see how good it could be if they had 20 years worth of TV making to learn from everyone else's mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you're seeing this with Dexter. Dexter realized, like, oh, fuck, we really screwed this up, and they're redoing it. Like, they have a shot to redo it and make something better at the end. Game of Thrones forever will be wondering, wow, we should have.
And now there's going to be like 7 spin-off series.
But people keep learning from other TV shows. People learned from Breaking Bad. Oh, that's the way you can end a show. Like, you can end a show the way Breaking Bad did and sort of tie,
and balls it out.
I think the ending of it honestly is a little stupid, but it does tie everything up.
Yeah, it's a little cartoon at the end where he ties the thing onto the gun, but makes an automatic.
I mean, right, the cartoonish of that.
Yeah, it gets a little cartoony at the end.
That's one thing about The Sopranos that I've always said and really liked, is that I honestly believe that almost anything in this show could happen in its
Breaking Bad has an element of pulpness to it that is the Vince Gilligan being a fan of Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez a little bit, and you see that within the twins, the brothers, like the twin brothers, the way they're walking out of like explosions and shit, and as
that intro scene with the brothers is like honestly one of the coolest.
Yeah, it's so cool.
2 minutes of TV you ever seen.
It's so cool. The universe, and Vince Gilligan also comes from like he worked in the X-Files for fucking 5 years. So like there's this magicalness to all of his worlds that he creates in a way that The Sopranos can have a rawness. So I definitely understand that. Deadwood movie left me wanting. Me too as well. I didn't like the Deadwood movie as much as I thought I was going to like it. Same with I'm just gonna pull out all the HBO movies. Yes, I'm talking about Sex and the City. I think both Sex and the City's movies were somewhat disappointing compared to how good the series was. Same with
I never watched the series and only watched the second movie. And my wife was like, dude, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's pathetic. It's awful. The Entourage movie kind of sucked. So there's not a great history of this. I would rather it have been a mini series than a short movie. I mean, than a television movie. But David Chase has always wanted to make a movie with The Sopranos, and he's been waiting to do this for years. He originally shot The Sopranos as a movie. So I'm excited to see what he puts together. What do you call it? The Breaking Bad movie was I liked it, but I can't rationalize to anyone that says this was completely unnecessary that like it was necessary. It's
certainly unnecessary.
I like it. I
just liked, as you said, I think you said this, like you just enjoyed being dropped into that world again for a little bit.
Yeah, but
this was before we were doing the podcast again. It came out like 2 years ago
or whatever. But yeah, it was when we were in our long break. But like I think, but everyone that says like I talked to Joe, I think is like, yeah, it was good, but what the fuck's the point? And I can't be like, yeah, there's no point.
No, there is no point.
There's
it was
no
just
point.
fun to be. It was just fun to be back there for a little.
Yeah,
bit.
there's no point.
You missed that world. You missed that world.
Yeah, Todd was fucking. Todd was fat. Yep. It's just.
I think that's going to be the part about The Sopranos is you're getting dropped back in that world, and
it's a different age, and you got some good. Like to me, it's all going to be about the actors and the casting performances. If they can create the same sort of gravitas that the other characters did, because this is for me, and it's story all you want with television shows. You need to make likable characters first and relatable characters that don't seem like caricatures, and you take the time to actually build the characters. And I think part of what made The Sopranos so amazing wasn't necessarily that its narrative was so tight. You just were curious and like, will Tony beat Phil? Will he catch Richie? Will he stop Ralphie? Like, you don't really care so much about that. Each episode is its own adventure into itself while proceeding down a story arc as well. It walks that fine line really well. So I think the most important thing when they institute a Sopranos movie is the casting and the characters need to be right. You need to believe John Barenthal as is he playing Christopher's dad? Is that who Shane's playing? I know he's.
I haven't looked at all. honestly.
But like or the guy's playing Junior, you need to believe he's Junior right off the bat and feel that. You can't Star Trek 09 this shit and be like, is this guy
Is it a cop out to use Gandolfini's son as Gandolfini?
No, because I was gonna say yes, but I would say yes, but Ice Cube's son did such a great job in Straight Outta Compton. So he did such a great job playing young Ice Cube. I'm like, if he can get the voice down, he's a good actor. I've seen him in a couple of things. He's a good actor. And he looks enough like James. It's better than casting someone that doesn't look like him. So yeah, I think having someone's kid play them it's an easy way to get around any problem that you would have with a family by recasting somebody. You're just having somebody in the family play that part, and you're, recast Princess Leia as her daughter instead of fucking putting CG Leia in there. I would rather something like that, but whatever. Deadwood movie was like Serenity Firefly movie. It was a nice add-on to the show that was uncontrollably canceled before its time. You really got to credit Todd for losing so much weight in a small amount of time. It's true, Saul Goodman. He was on Slim Fast, Atkins diet. He was on a whole bunch of shit. You got to give.
Was he really?
No. The fact that like that time period, like when you see him in that time period of El Camino. He is.
Oh yeah, he's huge.
He's huge, and then when you see him on the series Breaking Bad, it's supposed to be after that, a little later, because it's when Walt breaks Jesse out. You're seeing him in that time period where.
Right. You're right. Okay. Right. Okay.
So yeah.
Well, they overlap because. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. So he had a lot of rises and falls in weight. Isn't he married to somebody like unusual? Not unusual, but it's like, oh my God, he's married to that girl. Like, who is fucking Todd from Breaking Bad? Someone in the live chat throw it in.
Don't look up Todd. I'll look it up. Meth Damon's wife.
Matt Damon. He's not Matt.
It's Meth Damon.
Meth Damon. It's someone like you're like, oh my God, Todd's married to her.
The best part is I can just type in Meth Damon wife and it comes up. He's married to Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, it's like he's married to Kirsten Dunst. I
had no idea
he has spirit fingers. Dunst. I know, isn't that like they're like making spirit finger jokes in bed? It's like. He's like saying he's playing Interview the Vampire with her alone. I mean, they're bringing it on back to Breaking Bad. I'm sorry, I can only make so many of these stupid fucking comments. Okay, Matt, I know I'm keeping you long here at the end. I'll let you go.
And if there's anyone still here, why?
Yeah, sorry. Sopranos are good. I will be back here on this channel on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with Joe, and tomorrow evening with Tony and Bridge 4 over on Teflon TV here on YouTube. So, and those podcasts will be up on the audio cast as well. So, Matt, thank you so much. A couple of weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks, the day after my birthday, I believe. So, we'll be talking about the next episode, which I think is called He Has Risen, to hear about Janice starting a funky new rock band. Can't wait.
And I believe what's his name is back too. Our boy, your boy Ralphie's back, right?
Yeah, Ralphie comes back. I think he starts fucking Janice in the bathroom in this episode. I think that's this episode. It's the most beautiful thing to ever happen in The Sopranos, man. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this and you haven't already, please hit that like button. It helps get this video out to more people. Make sure you also subscribed whenever you check this out. And if you can, and you know someone that might enjoy this kind of silliness, suggest the channel to them and help us keep growing here. We really do appreciate all the support you guys give us, all the comments that you've been leaving, and you guys joining us live and making our Tuesday evenings all that much better on this rewatch series of The Sopranos. Thank you, Dwarf Burgers. Thank you, Studio Uncle D. Thank you, Cam for popping on in here. Saul Goodman, killing it in the comment section. You get a Tommy Award tonight. Gecko, you're an incredible buddy. Jay, thank you for the voicemails. M. Roland, thank you for popping on in here. So many folks. We saw who was in here earlier that was watching for the first time.
Muhammad popped in.
Yeah, Muhammad Ahmed popped in.
Roland was in here.
Fritz. We had Lady Danish watching for the first time. So many of our friends. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Walking David. Can't wait to have you on here to talk about The Sopranos at some point in time this season too. We love you guys. Take care.
Tony Pajamas. Did we get Tony Pajamas
fucking
in there?
Tony Pajamas.
Tony fucking Pajamas.
In between his gigs in Vegas, Jason Voorhees, I think, killed Tony Pajamas. And there's a whole bunch of shit going on in the chat room tonight,
And
folks.
suddenly no one can find Andy Kaufman now
I
that
know.
Jason Voorhees killed Tony Pajamas.
You've never seen him in the same place, Matt. Never seen him in the same place twice. Love you guys. Talk to you guys next time. Peace. Oh, wait, and you need to close.